The Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your super chats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
The Jets are staying busy this offseason, making a bunch of signings and trades, and Geno Smith is the new quarterback. What does Joe Benigno think of all the moves? He joins the show to weigh in on everything New York Jets. It's the Jake Asman Show. Let's hit it and get it started.
Wish you could have been a Jet, Fernando.
Let's see what happens.
What's your message to the Jet fans in New York?
Jets, Jets.
A new chapter for the Jets has started. Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji are tasked with shaping the future of this franchise. Will they be the ones to finally get it right? We will be here for every step of the journey on the Jake Asman Show, breaking down all the storylines, every game, and everything in between. Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super chats, baby. Cut the line. The Jake Asman Show starts right now.
Here we go, Jet fans. Welcome in, everybody. Click the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We talk Jets each and every day. If you ever missed the show, you can check out the podcast version of the YouTube show on Apple or Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time since the Jets have made all these moves this offseason, we say hello to legendary sports talk radio host, the hosts of the Oh the Pain podcast. It's our guy, Joe Benigno. Joe, how we feeling as the Jet offseason is fully underway?
Jake, how are you? Yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, I got to tell you, outside of the losing Nick Folk, which I didn't understand, I'm down with everything Darren Muji has done. I got to tell you, everything he's done. We can start with franchising Breece Hall. I think Breece had to come back. I'd like to see them give him a long-term contract. We'll see if they do that or not. But at least we know we have him for another year. I like the trade he made with Jermaine Johnson, who I thought was an absolute stiff, and he was always hurt. And you got this guy Sweat to be a nose tackle in the middle of the defensive line. Johnson goes back to Salah in Tennessee. He really addressed, as we saw, the defense with all the different moves. The defense was not a professional defense last year, and we saw all the moves that he made the other day, starting with Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joseph Asai. Really addressed the defensive line. He brings back the Mario Davis. Even though he's 37 years old. The Mario Davis moves reminds me a lot of Bart Scott when Rex Ryan brought him in back in 2009 when he was waiting at his house to sign him. Because to me, DeMario is all about leadership. That's what he is. At 37 years old, I guess he still has something in the tank. But I think he was brought in here to be a leader for that defense. I thought that was a smart move too. Dane Belton as well, former Giant, brings him in. And even Geno. You could say whatever you want about Geno, and everybody, Geno Smith. Geno Smith's not the same guy he was when he was with the Jets. And we always know he's had ability. He had some very good years in Seattle. I understand he didn't have a good year last year with the Raiders, but the Raiders stunk. He still threw 19 touchdown passes. No, he threw like 17 interceptions. He was behind a bad offensive line. Geno could throw the football. There's no question. You give him time, he could put it out there. And I said this to some of my Jet brethren who, oh, my God, Geno. Come on. What did you think you were getting, Joe Montana? What were you getting? Okay, you want to say Kirk Cousins. Look, they weren't paying $80 million for Malik Willis because who knows what he really is. You're not paying that kind of money for a guy that's really an unproven guy as a starter. Have no idea. Tua Tagovailoa, do you really want him? We all know about the concussion problems. He's terrible in cold weather. Let him go to Atlanta. I wanted no part of Kyler Murray. The guy, instead of looking at game film, he's playing, Mortal Kombat or whatever he's doing. I don't want this guy. So Geno's a stopgap. So what's the problem with that? We're not going to the playoffs this year. We're not winning the Super Bowl this year. He's not our quarterback of the future. And I look at it this way, too. I really do, Jake. He's got something to prove in New York. Geno comes to New York with a big chip on his shoulder.
That's what he said when he gave an interview to Josina Anderson. He says, I have unfinished business there. I want redemption for what happened, basically.
Yeah. And so I think it's a smart move by Muji, to be very honest with you. And we've seen many 35-year-old quarterbacks who played their best football at 35 and older. So I'm not I'm not upset with it. Like I said, my only negative, and I love what Darren Mucci has done here. I love it. I love the fact that Frank Reich is our offensive coordinator. I would have liked to see Wink Martindale as the D coordinator, but it looks like we're almost going to have, it's all, and I don't want to compare, but please don't get me wrong. The 85 Bears, but you look at the 85 Bears, Mike Ditka ran the offense, Buddy Ryan ran the defense, and that's what you're going to see here. Frank Reich is going to be the offensive coach. He's going to run the offense, and Glenn is going to run the defense. So let's see how that plays out. I'm good, bro. I said outside of letting Folk go, I thought that was why we did that. Haven't we learned yet with kickers? We had Folk before, we let him go. Then we had Jason Myers. We let him go. He almost was the MVP in the Super Bowl this past year. And now we need a kicker again. So I'm upset by that. But outside of that move, everything else that Darren Mucci has done, I'm completely on board with.
So I agree with you. And the only thing I'd say on Folk, I wanted him back. I think every Jet fan did. Chris Banjo was such a great special teams coach this past year. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because I was critical when they released Thomas Morstead a year ago and they found Austin McNamara out of nowhere, and he was great. So I'll give him a chance to try and find a real kicker. They signed Cade York yesterday, Joe, but he's going to probably be a guy that's competing for the kicking job with someone else. He hasn't kicked in the NFL in the last 2 years. So we'll see what they do there. But staying with Geno, I'm with you. Look, he wasn't my first choice. I preferred Kirk Cousins. Whether it's true or not, Cousins didn't want to be a Jet, and the Jets apparently they didn't want him. That's fine. Derek Carr, I was open to him, but he didn't play last year. You worry how much he has left. I'm fine with Geno because the best part about acquiring Geno is you're paying him $3 million. So if it doesn't work out, well, you're drafting a quarterback in 2027 anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, I look, and like I said, it makes sense. He's got something to prove. I don't think there's any question about that. And he can still throw the ball. And our offense, look, the defense was not a professional defense by the end of the year. And obviously Brady Cook was not an NFL quarterback. But you look at the offense that we have. We got a solid offensive line, all right? I know Vera Tucker's gone. He goes to the Patriots, of course. But you couldn't bring him back. He gets hurt all the time. I had no issue there. Simpson went to the Ravens. They're going to have to get a guy at guard.
They signed Dylan Parham yesterday, who's good. He's like the only good Raiders offensive lineman, so he's the new left guard.
Okay, I didn't see that. Good, there you go. So, you got the offensive line intact, the bookend tackles. You got Myers, you got Tippmann. Now this guy, what's his name again, this guy they brought in?
Dylan Parham. Yeah, he can play left and right guard, and it also gives them some flexibility. If they want to take someone in the draft, they now have the flexibility to move Tippmann back to center. You can move one of these guys to left or right guard. So now they have a solid 5 guys in place going into the draft, which is nice.
Right. And now you got 2, you got Garrett Wilson coming back. You got Brees coming back. You got Allen coming back from the injury. You got the kid Mitchell on the outside. I guess Mitchie, I don't know if he's coming back or not. I guess he's still a free agent.
Mitchie signed with the Panthers, so he's
okay,
out.
So he's gone. But you got Mitchell here, who really showed some promise last year. They got him in a steal in the steal of a trade for Sauce Gardner. Yeah, I mean, the offense has they got some firepower a little bit there. Maybe you draft a wide receiver. I know a lot of the mock drafts have them taking this kid. What's the kid from Arizona State at 16? I don't know if I would do that. I think I want I think in the first round, I want 2 defensive players. That's what I want in the first round. Yeah.
Well, it seems like they're set up, Joe, with pick 2 being one of the pass rushers, whether it's Arvell Reese or it's Ruben Bain or David Bailey. And then after that, though, like you look at the going rate for receivers and free agency, you have like slightly better than average receivers making $20-something million. I think they're going to draft a receiver pretty early unless they trade for Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jaguars.
Right. Well, which would not be bad. I know he had kind of a down year last year, but I do like him. Look, I think you need to take a receiver. I'm with you 100%. I don't know if I take it at 16, though. Maybe you can still take it at 33. And I think you got to draft a quarterback, bro. I think it's somewhere. And now I'm not that I love this guy, but I'm big. See, here's why I don't like Simpson, because I would not take Simpson. If you could take if you get him, if he's sitting there, let's say even at 33 or certainly at 44, then I would take him. If Simpson's there at 44, okay, I'll take him with a second-round pick. At 16, I look at this guy and I say, wait a minute, this guy started 15 games in college. I'm leery of that. You know what I mean? I want a guy take a shot at a guy like Carson Beck. He started 42 games in college. He was at winning programs, Georgia, the year he had at Miami last year, going all the way to the championship game. he's a big, tall guy. I know Reich likes those big quarterbacks. I would take a shot at him. I'd even take a shot at the Penn State quarterback later on, and if he's there, let's say in the 4th round, or maybe you could trade up if he's there in the 3rd round if you want to take a shot at him. I don't know if I take him in the 2nd round, but so that's my feeling. I guess it wouldn't be terrible if you took this kid, the wide receiver at 16, but because they really have addressed the defense so much here in free agency. But we'll see. Let's see how it plays out.
Do you have a preference for the backup quarterback, Joe? It felt like Carson Wentz was the favorite. Then new reports came out that he's no longer seemingly an option. I think it could be Tyrod again.
Let me ask you this. Is he completely – he hasn't signed with anybody, but is he completely not an option? Do we know that?
It felt like he was going to be signed, and then the Athletics said, well, not so fast. He's got other options. It doesn't feel like that's happening now. I mean, for me, they have basically 2 approaches. You could try and trade for an unknown guy who needs a chance, maybe a guy like Will Levis, for example, you do something like that, or Spencer Rattler, who could be available, or you bring back, Tyrod, or you trade for Andy Dalton, who's expendable now in Carolina, who knows Frank Reich. It feels like it's either the young, unproven guy who's the backup with maybe some upside, or they just try and get a consistent veteran who is competent.
It's too bad Tyrod gets hurt all the time because I like him a lot as a backup. That's the problem. I mean, I think he would have signed him already to be the backup if it wasn't for the constant injury. He plays 2 games and he's hurt. So that's the negative on him. I don't want to expend too much. I mean, look, I like Andy Dalton. I do like him. Of all the names you threw out there, he's probably the one I like the best. I guess you'd have to trade for him. I don't know. Look, they just got what they trade, a 6th rounder in the Geno deal, and they got a 7th rounder back.
That's what it would be for Dalton.
Right. Something like that I could see getting him.
Joe Benigno is with us here. Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We got a little ASMANIAC Madness coming up. It's a bracket, Joe.
Can I mention this too before we get to the ASMANIACs and all of that?
Yes.
And that is the passing of the great Matt Snell, who passed away the other day.
I was going to ask you about this. Yep.
Could have easily been the MVP in Super Bowl III at the big game, 121 yards rushing, rushed for the only touchdown in the game for the Jets. He could have easily been the MVP. There's no doubt about it. There he is. I think the reason he wasn't is because, Namath guaranteed it. And, people forget one thing about Joe. Joe called that whole game from the line of scrimmage. Think about that. Nobody does that anymore. And that, that kind of goes under the radar when you talk about that. He called the entire game from the line. But Matt Snell could have easily been the MVP. Maybe they should have been the co-MVPs. I would have had no problem if he was. But he was a great running back for us. He was our really first major guy that we drafted out of Ohio State. Was the rookie of the year in the AFL, I guess his first year in 1964. And was a tremendous back, man. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. Him and Boozer, they really complemented each other so well. They both could run the ball, obviously, could both catch the ball out of the backfield. They were great blockers. You talk about blitz picker-uppers. They were great at doing that. Great player for the Jets. He really was. And it's unfortunate that he had a falling out with the organization. There was some kind of issue with Leon Hess. I don't know exactly what it was. When they put Matt into the Ring of Honor, he was not there for the ceremony, which is unfortunate. But he was a terrific Jet, and you should be out there. I don't know. Knowing you probably did it already. You're probably auctioning off that Matt Snell jersey. That's one I don't have yet. I got to get one. Number 41, great Jet, the late, great Matt Snell.
You're not wrong. We did give away a signed Matt Snell photo to
there
pay homage to him on the show. Love that. By the way, we do have a giveaway today on the show for those just tuning in. Wayne Corbett signed helmet. You have this show and my afternoon show today for your chance to enter. Let me just quickly open up voting here for ASMANIAC Madness. Chef Kevin and the Hamburger, 2 of my great callers. The YouTube chat will vote who advances in the tournament to decide the best Jake Asman Show caller. So right now, voting is officially underway. Hit it. Both people competing have sent in the following messages. Chef Kevin says, y'all know Chef Kevin's a real ASMANIAC. We have one question for Hamburger. How many times did you vote outside Jake and Joe B on a Thursday? We could count on a great show for the community. Let's go Jets. Shout out to you, Chef Kevin. And the Hamburger wrote in, I have an investigation to do today at work, so I'm not able to call in for ASMANIAC Madness. Here are 5 memberships as an apology. Have a great day, everyone. So the Hamburger gifting 5 memberships, 5 raffle tickets to the community. Joe, I got some other things Jet related.
I got to tell you this. I mean, the production you do is just second to none.
Thank you.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, I have to say that. I mean, you are prepared for everything, bro. I mean, let's be real about it. I mean, there's nobody like Jake. The guy just, the professionalism is second to none.
I appreciate that, Joe. You're the man. I wanted to get your thoughts specifically on Aaron Glenn now, because they made all these moves to get his players defensively. It almost feels like this should have been their plan a year ago, get experienced coaches to help Aaron Glenn, who's a first-timer, bring in guys that know what he wants. They didn't have enough leaders on the team. That was clear. It almost feels like this should have been their plan a year ago, but they're in a weird spot, Joe. They got to be an improved team. They got to win games. Otherwise, he's not going to be here to see potentially the benefit of those 3 first-round picks in a better quarterback class. Give me your thoughts on the head coach and just the expectations, the pressure on him now in year 2.
Well, I don't love him. I mean, I'm very high on Muji, but I'm very concerned about Aaron Glenn. And what makes me feel better is Frank Reich is here. And let's be honest about it. Frank Reich will be the head coach of this team. If this team gets off to a brutal start again, and I don't really think they are, I think this team's going to be a little better than people think. Like I said, especially with the moves. Again, I'm not happy about the kicking situation, but I think this team's going to be better than you think. They can't be worse than they were to start the year. But there is a professional coach in right there, and I think the fact that you got him running the offense is going to really make it. I think the fact that Glenn is really probably not going to be involved at all in the offense, I think that's probably a good thing for this team going forward.
You just wonder, does Frank Reich have a lot left, or has the game passed him by? Because he didn't go well in Carolina. He got fired. Then he was at Stanford, whatever. It's not the same thing, and they weren't great. Yeah, how much?
Let's be honest, too. He was doing a good job in Indy, and Andrew Luck pulled the rug out from under the guy.
Yep.
I mean, he left. The guy's 28 years old or whatever. He's deciding to quit football, and give him credit. He never came back. So, but that's something you got to consider too. He did have a winning record in Indy.
Yep. It just with Glenn, it feels like with him calling the defense and the players they've added, like, we understand the offense is going to be limited if Geno Smith is not great. We understand that, but like there needs to be like a dramatic difference defensively, because you can't come out and say, "Oh, my superpower is play calling and take over the defense." Right. And it's got to be much better immediately, because there's no excuse. They have a representable amount of talent that they're still going to add in all likelihood with the number 2 pick in the draft to a unit that is much improved.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, the defense has got to be better. Look, you got to believe they're going to get an interception this year. I mean, come on. I mean, with Fitzpatrick back there, Stevens again, maybe a couple of the young guys, Moore and Thomas. And you got to believe we're going to get some turnovers with this football team now. So they can't be worse defensively. And I really think the offense has a chance to be pretty decent. I mean, you get a healthy Garrett Wilson. Like I said, say whatever you want about Geno. Geno's had a couple 4,000-yard seasons throwing the ball. He can throw the ball. I mean, there's no doubt. You give him time, he can get it done. And he's got still has a big time arm. So give him some time to throw. I think Geno's going to be a lot better than people want to believe. I really do.
I like the fact that you brought this up, the chip on the shoulder. That's a big deal. You've always talked about that. When guys have something to prove, those are the type of guys you really like. That's why you loved Baker Mayfield. I remember wanting him to be a Jet.
Yep. No question about it. And Geno's got a lot to prove. All the media about him has been negative. And he had some good moments here. I mean, I think if he was coached better, the problem was the biggest issue with Geno was the dynamic between Rex Ryan and John Idzik. Okay. I don't think Rex really wanted to draft him. Idzik kind of forced Geno on him. Then Rex made the big mistake of playing Sanchez in that stupid Snoopy Bowl game. There they are in that stupid Snoopy Bowl game. And then Mark got hurt. That forced Geno to start. And Geno wasn't horrible. I mean, he went 8-8 the one year. I think, look, the whole thing with M. Campali and everything that went down with that, there was there was a lot of maturity issues with Geno. That's a long time ago now, bro. He's 35 years old, and he's had success. He had success in Seattle. So I'm not that upset about it. And like I say, he's a stopgap. He's not here to be the quarterback for the next 10 years. He's just a bridge guy to get us to whoever our franchise quarterback's going to be, which more than likely will be, drafted next year when you got all these big guys coming out of college.
It's just amazing how long Geno's been in the league. Like, to think that he was throwing touchdown passes to Stephen Hill and Santonio Holmes, and he's made over $100 million. He's had a hell of a career for a guy that, like, if you would have told a Jet fan when he left the team after the 2016 season, he'd still be in the league at 2026, people would have thought you were nuts. So I give him a lot of credit. He's had a really nice career for a guy who looked like was going to be out of the league in a couple of years.
Yeah, and like I said, again, it's something to prove, but a lot of 35. We got Vinny Testaverde. How old was Vinny when we got him? And look at he had his best years as a Jet. When he was mid to late 30s. And we've seen that with a lot of guys, Jim Plunkett, Rich Gannon. We could go on. And Geno's already had some success. I mean, he had some good years in Seattle. You can't deny it. Teams that went to the playoffs. So I know
Vinny was 36, Joe. You're right.
That?
He was 36 when the Jets got him.
Right. And look at and he had one of the best years in 1998. He had maybe the best year you could say outside of Namath than any quarterback ever had. He threw 29 touchdown passes. They won 12 games. They went to the AFC Championship game. So, like I said, and there's been a lot of guys, Rich Gannon, Plunkett. Look at Brady. He had big years after, and I understand it's Brady, but he had big years after he was 40 years old. So I'm sure Geno's got a little bit left in the tank. I really believe that.
Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. If you guys have a question for Joe about the Jets, anything NFL, anything New York sports, write it in, and we will bring it up on the screen. In terms of like the expectations, Joe, you said earlier, this team is not going to be a playoff team, but how many games do they have to win for you to feel comfortable with this head coach being here for another season?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be comfortable with the coach being here for another season, no matter what they do, unless they go out and win, and make the playoff and win 10 games or something like that, which I don't think is happening. I need competitive football, bro. They were not an NFL team at the end of the year. And I understand that they were tanking. Let's be real. They were playing Brady Cook, who's not an NFL quarterback. The defense was an absolute, Fernando Mendoza at IU would have shredded. They would have shredded that defense, what they put out there at the end of the year last year. So we got professional players now on the D. I want to see a competitive season, And people say, well, you don't want to win too much because, you want to have a high pick. I don't know. We got 3 first-round picks. We'll be able to make a move with that to move up to get a quarterback because of all that draft capital next year if it comes down to that. So I'm not – I want to win. I want to have a good year, But give me a football team. Don't give me how many games did we get blown? Every game I went to 3 football games last year. Every one of them we got killed. The Dallas game, Carolina, even though it was a close game somewhat, you never thought they had a chance to win the game.
I was at that one. That was brutal.
Right. And you were at the Miami game too that I was at, and I don't know if you were at that game, but I think you got me the tickets for that game.
Yep.
And I went to that game and they got killed. The game was over in 5 minutes into the game. I want to see competitive football, bro. I want to see go out there and win some games. Go out there and beat Buffalo. Go out there and beat New England next year in a game. You know what I mean? Let's go.
Well, I think the biggest thing, Joe, they obviously started 0-7 last year. If anything close to that happens, Glenn might not make it, to your point. But
that's right.
Like, for all the issues Robert Saleh had as the head coach, his second year they started 6-3 with Zach Wilson as the quarterback. They were 7-4, and then Mike White got hurt. Be fake good. Give us a start 4-4, right? If you're not going to make the playoffs, fine, but you have to come out and win some games early, because I worry if they get off to a brutal start, the guys just check out. Like, the messaging is not going to work unless you see some results. And I think last year, it's crazy, but I think losing that week 1 game to the Steelers, it just kind of snowballed from there because they felt like they had a win. They played great. They were ready to come out. They had the fumble by Gibson. They lose the game. And then they no-show against the Bills. And then the spiral really took into effect. They have to get off to a much better start if they want to make anything of this upcoming season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, bro. I agree. But I also look at it that there's really, there's pressure on Glenn, but there's really not pressure on the team. I don't know what your expectation level as a Jet fan really is going into this year. I want a competitive team. I don't expect any kind of great year, and they can only be better than what our expectations will be. That's my view on it. And like I said, maybe Glenn's got to win games. I get it, but if Glenn's got to go, well, I'm giving Frank Reich the head coaching job. Now, would I want to see Mike Tomlin here or something? Yeah. But we're in a lot better shape right now going into this season than we were going into last season. Let's be honest. With the moves that were made, with the moves Muji has made, with the draft capital that we have now, this franchise is in a much better state than they were going into last year.
Well, you're starting to see some of like the rumblings of if they have a good draft class, people seem to like the moves right now. We'll see how it plays out, but they're not successful. Glenn doesn't take the necessary steps forward. There's a real path where Muji's here hiring the next coach and Glenn's not. That could very well happen if they don't show real improvement.
Look, I think the popularity level of Darren Muji, I don't know what the polls would say. I don't want to get into that, because I don't trust polls, but I would think that it's pretty high for Muji and very low for Glenn.
You learned how to say his name. That's all I need to know. He's not Muhe. He's Muji now. We got it right.
No, Muji, this guy's got an idea. I mean, he's really showed me something. Like I said, very upset about Folk, and I don't get that. And we'll see what he does. Like you said, what was this guy you said they brought in?
Cade York. He's not going to just be handed the job, though. He'll be competing with someone.
Right. But outside of that, I mean, all these moves he's made, like I said, Darren Muji sold me. He began selling me that he's for real when he made the Sauce Gardner trade, which I loved. We may look back at that trade as a turning point in the history of this franchise. You may look at that. And if we wind up getting the young quarterback that we've been waiting for 60 years now, okay, at least I have, you're going to look back at that trade as one of the real, big moves that kind of maybe turn this franchise around. So I'm high on Muji right now, and let's see. Let's hope it continues to be that way.
So in regards now to the draft, and you brought up Simpson, let's say they did take him at 16. What would your reaction be to that?
Well, I wouldn't be, I can't believe they did this. I would say this, okay? He wouldn't be playing right away. So we know that. That's one thing that, unfortunately, whether it was Sanchez, whether it was Sam Darnold, whether it was Wilson, these guys played immediately, okay? Even Geno played pretty much immediately.
He wasn't supposed to, but he did. Yeah.
Like out of the second round. That won't be the case now with Simpson, okay? If you take him at 16, if they like him that much, if Muji likes him that much, I watched a lot of SEC football. I watched a lot of Alabama last year. He started out really well, and then he kind of faded late in the year. Obviously, he had that terrible game. He got hurt in the game against IU in the Rose Bowl. But, he got hurt in that game, but he was
hurt before that, he said. He dropped to 190 pounds. He had to take he had a back injury, and then the medicine he was taking led to stomach inflammation. He couldn't have anything but chicken soup, he said, and he went from 215 to 190, and you could see it on film he wasn't the same guy. Right.
Sounds like my diet, what I have to eat. But no, anyway.
You a big chicken soup guy?
I love it's the only soup I can eat. I mean, come on. I mean, give me chicken. That's about all I eat, bro. With the issues that I have physically, you don't want to go into it. But the thing that I would be confident with if you did go with Simpson at 16, and he's going to get, and let's be honest, he's going to get taken in the first round. You know how that plays out. Somebody's taking Simpson in the first round.
Well, he could be like Dart, where a team trades back into round one together. Right. It could be the Jets. And what if the Jets are worried the Cardinals, who have the second pick of the second round in front of the Jets, are worried that they're going to take him? The Jets might have to make a move if they want.
And look, if the Jets did that, if the Jets wind up, using 2 and 16 and whatever they do with that, obviously you're going to take a defensive player or two. And okay, let's say they take a wide receiver at 16 and they trade back in the first round to get Simpson. I'd be completely down with that. I would be happy with that, I got to say. But the one thing that I would feel good about with him is you got Frank Reich here. You got a guy that I think can help tutor a young quarterback like that because he played quarterback in the NFL. Frank Reich is responsible for the 2 greatest comebacks in the history of the best in college football, the best in the NFL, with Maryland against Miami, and, of course, the classic playoff game against the Houston Oilers in 1992 when they were down 35-3. So, he's had success. He was the backup for all those years to Kelly, but he did play a lot, in Buffalo. I like playing with the Jets for a little bit too. It wasn't very good, but whatever. But I have confidence in him that he can help develop a young quarterback if they do wind up taking Simpson.
Well, just the coaching staff with experience, it's night and day. Because you don't see a head coach after a year fire both coordinators and have to replace 10 of 21 assistants. Like what Glenn did to still be here, it's historic the amount of turnover on that side, on both sides of the ball, really.
Yep. Yeah. No question about it. And like I said, the Frank Reich move is really very, very good move. Very, very high on it.
Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. If you have a question for Joe, write it in. This one is from Joe the Jet, who super chats. What's more likely, Aller, Green, or Beck on day 3? So Taylon Green, I believe, is the quarterback of Arkansas. The Jets met with him at the Senior Bowl. They met with him at the Combine. He'd be like, he broke all these athletic feats at the Combine. He's a freak athlete. He just doesn't have a lot of experience. So he'd be a true wild card day 3 dart throw. Beck, we all watched in college, and Aller's super talented. He just didn't have a good year last year, got hurt. James Franklin got fired. It was a mess. If they took any of those guys on day 3, to me, there's logic in all that. They're going to take someone if they don't take Simpson earlier than that.
Yeah, no, look, I don't know a lot about Green, but I do know Aller. I certainly know Beck. I'd be good with that. Yeah, I'm good with that, bro. I'm 100% good with that.
Super chat from Mike, who writes, and I think it's clear that the Salo rot had infected all the young players. Once Rodgers failed, they all were mentally defeated. I look at this as year 1 for AG.
First of all, let me just say this: Rodgers didn't fail. This guy, he threw 28 touchdown passes that year. He threw more touchdown passes with the Jets 2 years ago than he did for Pittsburgh last year. Okay, and this idea that he failed is nonsense. They blame it all on him.
Yep.
We forget that the owner fired the head coach after 5 games. They were 2-3, and he dumped them. We forget that the kicker absolutely killed him. How many games did he kill? At least 3 games that Zerline cost them. They had a defense that stunk. How many times did they have the lead late and the defense gave it up? This idea that Rodgers failed is nonsense. It's nonsense. And they should have brought him back last year. You know how I feel about that. He had a pretty solid year for the Steelers last year. They did lead him to the playoffs. I don't know what he's doing now. He's still waiting to sign, I guess. I don't know.
He might go in the black hole again.
Yeah, I guess he's got to go there. Look, he's a very eccentric dude. There's no doubt about it. I still think he'll wind up with McCarthy in Pittsburgh again.
Yep.
But there's no denying that he's an all-time great quarterback. So, and the idea that he failed is crap. Like I said, he threw 28 touchdowns. Only 2 Jets ever threw more, and that's Fitzpatrick and Vinny. So I'm tired of hearing how he failed. That's nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, it was all put on him, which is crazy. He played very similar this year as he did with the Jets.
Because the media didn't, how I feel about sports writers. The media, couldn't wait to get him here. They were all hopped up. Oh, Rodgers, they were doing a dance. They put him on Hard Knocks and all of this. Oh my God, it's so tremendous. And then the injury happens, which could only happen to us. And then when things started to go wrong the year he played, they put it on him. They basically blamed him. You're right. So you know how that works.
And speaking of Saleh, what were your thoughts? First time I had you on, what were your thoughts on him getting a head coaching job with the Titans? And he's bringing in basically every former Jet. He traded for Solomon Thomas yesterday.
Yeah. You knew he'd get another job. You knew that. He's a very good – look, guys, one thing that we've seen in the NFL, I think every head coach deserves 2 shots. I do. If you failed the first time – look, Bill Belichick wasn't doing great in Cleveland. Look what he turned out to be in New England. So I think every head coach deserves at least a second shot. He kind of remade himself again, going back to Shanahan in San Francisco. We know he's a very good defensive coordinator. I knew he'd get another shot. And look, he went where he has a quarterback. Let's be honest with Saleh. Say whatever you want about him. He never had a quarterback here. He didn't have a chance to really coach Aaron Rodgers that second time.
He got 5 games.
He got five games into it. So he really didn't have a great chance to coach Rodgers. He wasn't going anywhere where he didn't have a quarterback already. And he goes to Tennessee where he's got a young guy in Cam Ward. So I'm not surprised. And I wouldn't be surprised if he is successful there. I really wouldn't be.
Do you like him bringing in Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator? Because they've signed a bunch of former Jets and Giants. JFM is there now. They made the Jermaine trade. They signed, what's his name for the Giants? Right? Wandell is their new receiver they added. So it's basically a it's the New York Titans, literally, in Nashville.
Yeah, no, I think Dable's a great offensive coordinator. I think he's, he's one of the guys that really helped develop Josh Allen. I don't think there's any question about that. I think he got a little bit of a raw deal with the Giants because he's really, to me, and I understand Shane drafted Dart, but I think the guy that really wanted Dart was Dable.
Yep.
So you got to give him credit for that. Now look, obviously you got John Harbaugh now if you're the Giants, so that certainly worked out. But as far as an OC, I think that's a good move for Saleh. I really do.
Dave Brigger wants to know, does Joe still text with Salah?
No, you know what? Let me put it this way. I texted him when he got the Titan job, congratulating him on his new gig. He does not respond to my texts, and I don't expect him to.
Interesting. I'm surprised he didn't respond. He didn't shoot
I'm
you.
not.
Thank you.
I'm not, after the whole disaster with Wilson that went down, the last year, whatever, the last year there or the year before the final year, I'm not surprised. That's okay. I got no issue. I got no issue with the coach. I have no issue with him at all. He was always very good to me.
Mace B with a super chat. Losing teams on Jet schedule. Vegas, Titans, Browns. Vikings have made big moves. Can't see 7 wins. Schedule is tough. Would you be happy with 5 wins?
You know what? You don't have no idea. That comment, you don't know what they're going to be. And you don't know what these teams are. Teams that you think stink might be good. Teams that you think are going to be good might not be as good. So I we have no idea once you start playing the NFL schedule how it's going to play out. A lot of it is, when do you play a team? Are they healthy when you're playing them? Are you catching them when maybe their quarterback is out? So you can't just say, I only see 5 wins. I don't know. Don't make predictions like that, because if anything, one thing that we've learned over the years, you following the National Football League, is the unpredictability year to year in the NFL. There's going to be teams you think are going to be really good that won't be, and there's going to be teams that you think are going to be absolutely terrible that surprise you. So I don't get hung up in the schedule at all.
The only consistent thing has been the Jets are just bad, but everyone else could have all this success out of nowhere and quickly.
Right. That's right. Well, look, they're due to be, at least, like I said, they're due to be a competitive football team this year. They really are.
Doc Jet fan checks in. Doc, a great caller of mine and an OG Jet fan like you, Joe. He says, Joe, what are the odds you would have given me if I told you that Geno was the Jet QB in 2016 and in 2026, and there were no playoff wins in between?
Yeah, no, I'd be shocked. Look, I'm really not surprised that. Look, we've seen, like I said this before, we've seen so many quarterbacks that develop late. I mean, who would have thought, when you look at the draft class with Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, I think Lamar was in that draft class, and who's the guy that won the Super Bowl before anybody? None of them even got there, and it's Sam Darnold. So the quarterback, look, when I was growing up, right, the rule of thumb was quarterbacks take 4 years to develop, right? Once they get to the NFL. That was generally the rule of thumb. It takes 4 years for them really to develop into a solid NFL quarterback. Namath kind of developed really quickly, but most guys don't. And then Dan Marino in 83, immediately, once he started playing, he was immediately good. But most guys don't. I mean, you look at John Elway, man, his first year, he had a rough time. They actually wound up benching him in Denver, So that's always the rule of thumb. And now these guys play immediately. And I don't think it's the best thing in the world. I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes, he sat for a year, behind Smith, right? Behind Alex Smith in Kansas City before he started playing. Lamar Jackson didn't play right away in Baltimore. So these guys need to sit a little bit before they play. Rarely does it work. It worked a little bit with Sanchez with the Jets, and I think the reason it worked there is because they had such a good team around them. They had a terrific defense. They had a really good veteran offensive line. Veteran guys like Thomas Jones, Jericho Cotchery, different guys like that. Braylon Edwards, when they brought him in, they had these veteran guys there. And I think that helps Sanchez. I really do. But rarely does it work out when these guys play from day one. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, how long did he sit before he finally played, behind Brett Favre? So, I think that the guys really need to take some time and not play right away out of college.
Let me in with a super chat. What's up, Jake and Joe? How do you think fans will react when Geno runs out of the tunnel in the Jets home opener in his second run with the Jets?
Well, you'll be an idiot to boo him. And I'm sure there'll be Jet fans that will. But why?
I don't think they will, actually, Joe, because, again, it's week one. You get excited. It's the one time MetLife might be sold out with Jet fans.
I would hope that the Jet fan now is intelligent enough to look back and realize that this is not the Geno Smith we drafted out of West Virginia, 10 years ago, whatever it was. He's much more mature now. He's got something to prove, and we want him to be successful. I mean, What Jet fan doesn't want to see Geno be successful with us? Nobody. So what's the point of booing him? You know what I mean? There's no reason for it. We should be, when he comes out of that tunnel, he should get a solid ovation from the Jet fans.
Hakeem the Dream says, much respect to Mr. Benigno, the best host in WFAN history. The overnights with Joe and Tony Page was the peak of the station.
Look, I don't want to get into too much. The fan will never be what it once was. I know I worked part-time there. You know, the days of Imus, the days of Mike and the Mad Dog, the days of Steve Summers and myself overnight, you know, all of that, Eddie Coleman and Dave Sims. I mean, those days are, we'll never see anything like that again.
Well, for me, when I grew up listening to the station, it was the end of Mike and the Mad Dog, but it was you and Evan. You and Evan were the best midday show, in my opinion, in the history of the station.
Now, we had a great run, Evan and I. Love Evan. He's doing a good job now. Great job with Tiki. I think he's pretty happy that he's back doing the 10 o'clock show, too. So I think he's happy.
He gets to go to more games and score more games.
You know what I mean? That 2 to 6:30 shift was never great, I'll tell you that. But, I love Evan. We had a great run together. But look, the heyday, we've all seen the heyday of the fan, So, and sports radio in general, sports talk radio in general, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, it's just a different time. So when you think back to your fan days, do you miss doing the show? I know you hate the commute, but do you miss actually doing the show every day and interacting with the New York sports fan?
No.
So you're good. You're happy.
I don't miss it at all, bro. I got to tell you, seriously. I'm happy I do my little show on a Saturday. I do my little podcast. I do not miss the commute into the city. Thank God I'm not going into the city these days. That's for sure. I did it for 25 years and it was a great run. I was fortunate to be able to, to do what I did, but I really don't miss it, to be very honest with you. It ran its course for me as far as, an everyday thing.
Do you see yourself continuing with the Saturday morning show going forward, or do you think that's coming to an end at some point too?
Well, I mean, look, everything comes to an end. So, I mean, but right now I'm doing it. Right now I'm good doing it. It sounds to me, after talking to the powers that be at the fan, it sounds like I can do this for as long as I want. And right now I'm enjoying doing it on a Saturday. I do it from home. I'm back to doing 5 to 9 again. Back to doing a 4-hour show. We got to get Asman on one of these days. Back to doing a 4-hour show from 5 to 9 a.m. So right now I'm good with it. We're going into a good time of the season. You got all the college basketball stuff, the NFL free agency stuff into the draft, baseball starting and all that. How about Team Italy beating Team USA? How about that?
I'm glad you brought it. I was going to end with some baseball stuff. Have you been into the WBC?
I can't say I'm really into it, but I have put it on. I mean, I'll say I watched a little bit last night. Was it Italy and Mexico? I watched a little bit of that.
Shout out to, by the way, I don't know if you know this. So Vinny Pasquantino, who had the three home runs. He is a diehard. I've messaged with him, but we're going to try and get him on the show. Really? He's a diehard Jet fan. He's a listener of mine. Yep. He is a Jet fan. Get this. Not because he's from New York. Growing up, he loved the Jets because his name is Vinny, and the first quarterback he watched was Vinny Testaverde. He had never seen an athlete named Vinny, so he just latched on to the Jets. In fact, his Twitter picture, Joe, is MetLife. He was at the opener for Rodgers' first game. The Jets always send him like jerseys when they had the new jerseys a couple of years ago. So he is a huge Jet fan, and he is the reason Team USA basically gets to play on into the knockout round now.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that Vinny Testaverde was also an Italian. So that kind of goes right into he plays for the Royals, right?
He's the Royals' first baseman.
Yeah, good. Let's go. Good for him. Good for him. But I have, like I said, the one thing I got to tell you this. Okay, now the one thing that I am bothered about with the World Baseball Classic, and I don't know if you know where I'm going here or not, but do I have to see Juan Soto doing, he's out there with the Team Dominican doing the lambada. I mean, this guy looks like he could not be freaking happier that he's doing what he's doing with the Dominican. Can I see that with the Mets? Can I see him doing a little, twirl, maybe doing a little chubby checker twist or something? Can I see that? No, really. Can a little Michael Jackson moonwalk when he gets he rarely gets a big hit for the Mets, but when he gets that big hit or that big walk, which he loves to have, you know what I'm saying, bro? And how about the other day? I happened to have it on. I think the Dominican was up like 9 or 10-1. And of course, he hits a 2-run homer after they're up 10-1. I just so
I've been into it.
I tell you, it bothers me. Can I see that enthusiasm? You're getting you got a $765 freaking million salary. Can I see that enthusiasm with my baseball team?
I like it. I think that's totally fair. By the way, here's your guy, Vinny, big Jet fan, rocking a Sauce jersey
Wow, look
last
at
year.
that. Wow.
Yeah,
Vinny.
easy. Shout out to Vinny. I have to send this to him. We've messaged back and forth about the team. He is truly like, there's like all celebrity fans who say they're Jet fans, so they don't care. He's really a true diehard.
That kind of like the frauds that sit at front row with the garden.
Oh yeah.
By,
Oh yeah.
by the way, I got to say this too. So 2 games last week. I'm watching the Knicks last week. Couple games. I think it was the San Antonio game. I think they were both the Sunday games. San Antonio. And then the game against Oklahoma City. That wasn't a Sunday, but those were the games, right? And who's sitting courtside with his Met hat on at the Knicks game?
Oh, Steve Cohen. Yeah.
What are you doing there? Shouldn't you be in Port St. Lucie? Right, Steve? He's too worried about his stupid hedge fund. And thank you again for Diaz and Pete. I appreciate it. Him, and I blame him more than the little genius, I have to tell you.
Wow, you blame the owner more than Boy Genius?
Of course. He's the owner. And I'll tell you this too, and I'm going to say this. The Boy Genius wasn't going to do anything until Steve Cohen got involved. All of a sudden, they were never in on Kyle Tucker. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're offering Kyle Tucker big money. Now he wound up signing with the Dodgers, and it didn't take him too long to sign Bichette moments later. So I think Cohen got involved and said, hey, hey, David, you better start doing something here. And if you notice, all of a sudden, once the owner got involved, they brought in Bichette. They made a trade for Lewis Robert. They brought in the pitcher Peralta. So we'll see.
But they were always going to do something. They weren't just going to do nothing all offseason.
Well, they did something. They dumped the greatest home run hitter in the history of the franchise. Couldn't wait to
That's
get rid
to
of
be the criticism, right? Because there's no reason why Alonso can't be the DH right now.
Oh, please. And let's be honest too, bro. Okay? And how about losing Diaz? How do you do that? How do you to me, it's losing Nick Folk is very similar to losing Edwin Diaz. Very similar. Okay? He's the best closer in baseball. We let him walk, right? To the freaking Dodgers, no less. We got the best kicker in the game, and we let him walk twice now. So that bothers me. But going back to Alonso, look, this nonsense that David Stearns threw out there about run prevention. Really? You know what because he's got a guy playing first and never played first. He's got a guy playing third and never played third. You're going to have it more than likely. Maybe Benj is going to be the right fielder for the Mets. If not, it's going to be Brett Beatty, who never played right field. You let the best closer in the game go for this stiff Devin Williams to be your closer, and you're trying to talk about run prevention. What run prevention really means is I'm getting rid of Pete. That's what run prevention is.
That's
chance his excuse for letting Pete walk. And I hope I'm really rooting hard for him. I want Pete to hit 55 freaking home runs this year in Camden Yards. I really do.
I just hope he doesn't do it against the Yankees. But
I hope he does it there too. And
of course you do.
I tell you what, he's coming back September 14th to Citi Field. I hope he win the game, but I hope Pete hits 3 home runs.
Some super chats here.
Stiff Devin Williams. So.
that to me, good luck. If you're getting the Devin Williams that Yankee fans had to watch last year.
No, you tell me. That move, let me tell you something. I think we got a pretty nice team, even with the loss of Pete and Diaz. I think we got a pretty nice team. But the bullpen scares the hell out of me, bro. And Devin Williams is the closer. Now, I know they got the guy Weaver, the ex-Yankee too, who might wind up being the closer if Williams craps out. But that, to me, is the big Achilles heel this team has, is the bullpen. I think the rotation is going to be better. Yeah, with Peralta and McClain. I know McClain got hit a little bit by Italy the other day, but I don't really care. If he's going to get hit, let him get hit in the WBC. So you're going to have those 2 guys at the top of the rotation. Maybe one of the other guys comes back, Minaya, Peterson, Senga. So I think the rotation will be improved. They're going to hit, even with the loss of Pete. You still got Soto, you still got Lindor, you got Bichette, you got Polanco. He should be doing something. Maybe you get something out of Robert. So I think they're still going to be okay offensively. Vientos, Beatty, Alvarez. Hopefully they give you something. I think they'll still be okay offensively. My biggest concern is the bullpen. It really is.
This one is from Thomas, who says, Joe, Mets win 100 or Jets win 10. What's more likely?
Wow.
I think it's the Mets, personally.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't think either thing is going to happen. But I guess the Mets winning 100. I guess if everything really broke right for the Mets, they could be a real high 90-something win team if everything broke right.
Yep, I agree. Mike says, meant more as the Rodgers experiment failed, not Rodgers. AG inherited a mentally weak team that only compounded the failure of a first-time head coach.
Yeah, no, they were. I mean, but let's be real. The biggest mistake the Jets made last year, all right, forget that they dumped Rodgers, was bringing in Justin Fields. He killed him. He stunk. And I heard somebody try to say that Justin Fields has a better upside than Geno. Justin Fields can't even throw the football. Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields makes Geno look like he's Brady. I mean, come on. I mean, it's not even close.
The owner said Fields can't complete a pass. The owner said that.
Right. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I mean, come on. What, because he's younger? I mean, who's had more success in this league, Geno Smith or Justin Fields? It's not even close.
I think Sal Licata, who you and I know well, was on the Fields is better than Geno take the other day.
Well, that's, I didn't want to say his name.
Okay, so that's who we were talking about. Got it.
It kills me about Sal. He's not even a Jet fan. What do you really care? Give me a break. Give me. I know he's got to say something, but give me a break.
Bag says, Joe, what if the game has passed right by, then what?
I'm not really worried about that. He's going to look, to me, he's good to be developing the quarterback. And don't you feel better about him calling the plays than Tyler Ekstrom? I mean, is it even debatable? Come on.
This one is from Hakeem, who says, and Hakeem, $10 super chat, 2 raffle tickets. Thank you. In 2027, hire Alex Smith as the head coach, and then draft Arch Manning / John Mateer as quarterback. Smith, perfect head coach. Lastly, why does Lindor have so much power over the Met organization? You can't hire Alex Smith. He's never coached at any level. If you're going to hire the offensive guy,
Arch Manning, I'm all for Arch Manning.
For sure. But you got to hire either someone who's been an experienced head coach like Tomlin or McDermott, so on and so forth, or you got to hire someone who's like the offensive guy to help mold and develop the quarterback. We need to stop hiring first-time defensive guys.
He's right about Lindor. Lindor has a lot of power in that organization. Why, I don't know. Look, I have my issues, non-baseball related, and I don't want to get into it with Lindor, okay? But as far as him on the field, look, I'll say this, and I didn't want Lindor to begin with. I'll say that. I didn't like trading those 2 young guys, Rosario and Jimenez, for him. I wasn't crazy about it. And he didn't have a great first year. He had some issues with the fans. He got involved when they had, what's his name, Javi Baez here, and he was giving the thumbs down to the fans and all. And, they paid him all this $360 million, whatever they gave him, $340 million. So I was down on it. But he's become an all-time great Met. I mean, he's the greatest short. Look, in all due respect to Bud Harrelson and Jose Reyes, he's the best shortstop we've ever had. He plays 160 games a year, and he's got a lot of big hits for this team, certainly 2 years ago. So I like Lindor a lot as a player. But it does seem like he has a lot of power. And look, we've heard a lot of rumors that he had issues with Soto last year in the locker room. He had issues with Nimmo last year in the locker room. The situation, with his wife and all of that. But, I mean, so I think that Lindor has a lot of power with the Mets. And why? I don't know. You'd have to ask Steve Cohen that. But he has become one of the great Mets of all time. I mean, I have to say that.
What were your thoughts on them not naming a captain? All of a sudden, Steve Cohen comes out and says, I never wanted a captain, which feels like a bunch of nonsense.
I don't know why that's a big deal. I don't know why that. I think it goes back to, maybe because Lindor would be the, as far as I'm concerned, would be the natural guy to be the captain. And maybe he wants to lay off that for the reasons that, that question the caller asked. Why does he have so much power seemingly with the organization? And maybe Cohen senses that and wants to get away from that aspect of it. Maybe.
Neil checks in. Neil, an OG Jet fan like you, Joe. He says, Joe, I wanted to trade for Mac Jones because he's in year 5 and he's improved every year. Would you be happy with him for $3 million in exchange for the 44th pick? That'd be the second round pick.
No, I would not. I'm not giving up a second round pick for Mac Jones. Absolutely not.
That's what I said to them because I don't believe in Mac Jones without Kyle Shanahan. I don't
want Mac Jones. He hates the Jets anyway. He can't. He hates them. Going back to his New England days. No, because we'd be bringing him in like he's going to be our franchise quarterback. No, absolutely not.
Lou B checks in. Any chance we won't get all 1 p.m. games again? I mean, they might have a nationally. They're going to have at least one.
They're forced to have. They have to have at least a Thursday night game, right?
Yeah.
And
last year they had an international game. They played in London. They could go to London, I guess, or a different spot again this year potentially.
Do we know they're not going to overseas? Are they this year?
No, they were the home game for the overseas game, so we knew that they were going, but it's not on the schedule as of now. Right. If they're going to get an international game, the national televised game, they could put like a division game in prime time. They early in the year, I could see they put Jets Dolphins on Monday Night Football early in the season last year.
Right. No, I hope they're all 1 o'clock games.
That's the only good part about the Jets being awful. You get the 1 o'clock games.
Right. Or if it's on the West Coast, a 4 o'clock game. That's it. I hate the night games. You know how I feel about them. Can't stand them.
I think when you look at the schedule, Joe, I think there's a good chance they open in Nashville against Salah week 1.
Oh, I could see that. Oh, yeah. Yep. You know what, bro? 100% right. 100. I could certainly see that happen. No
they
doubt.
did that with, Rodgers versus the Jets this past year. The Jets, Darnold versus Zach Wilson a couple of years back. Before that, I definitely could see that. They also play Mike LaFleur, who's now the head coach of the Cardinals, and Brian Costello, who you and I know well. His theory is they're going to play in Buffalo in their new stadium week 1, give the Bills a quote-unquote easy win. The first ever Jets-Bills game in the old Ralph Wilson was there, and then the Jets closed out the stadium. So he thinks Jets-Bills week 1 is going to be the opener.
Sense. It'd be like a homecoming game for Buffalo. Yes, I
Brutal. All right, last one for you. You brought up the Knicks before. How are we feeling about this team? You got about a month before the playoffs. Are you confident in this Knicks squad?
I'll say what I've been saying really all year about the Knicks, and I'll continue to say it, okay? The regular season is basically, a glorified exhibition. When you're a team that is going to be a legitimate playoff team that you know from day one you're going to be, which the Knicks are, that's pretty much what the regular season is. Look, they're going to be one of the top 4 teams in the East. They're going to have home court in the first round, and they're going to win the first round. Play Philadelphia, Toronto. I don't know who they're going to play. Somebody like that in the first round, and they'll win. And I feel confident they'll win. After that, who knows? After that, here's what we know. Indiana will not be in the playoffs this year. So that's a good thing because Indiana's been their nemesis for years, and he beat them the last 2 years and knocked them out the last 2 years. Boston and Detroit. The Knicks are going to probably have to beat both of those 2 teams without the home court advantage to get to the finals. Now, they beat them last year, okay? And they won on the road. Remember, they won 3 games in Detroit. They won 2 games in Boston. So I don't really put a lot of stock in the home court advantage anymore, like I was at one time. They've lost a lot of brutal playoff games at home over the years, including last year, right? Including 2 years ago. Game 7 at home 2 years ago. So that's what it comes down to, bro. Now, they beat both of them last year. It's going to be more difficult to beat them this year. I think Boston is the bigger threat, especially that Tatum is back. They've already won a championship a couple years ago. They're going to have a big chip on their shoulder to want to stick it to the Knicks because the Knicks beat them last year. And even though it wasn't the Knicks' fault, Tatum got hurt. Tatum got hurt in that series. As far as the Pistons are concerned, I know they destroyed the Knicks 3 times so far in the regular season. But one thing about the Pistons, they will go into the playoffs as the number 1 seed in the East and as a big favorite in the East, okay, one of the favorites in the East with a lot of pressure on them now. They'll have expectations that they didn't have in the past. So it's going to come down to that. Can the Knicks beat Boston and Detroit? And we'll see. Personally, if you think the Knicks are winning the title, they haven't won one since 1973. Why would I think they're winning it now?
If you believe in due, they're due.
Look, bro. The teams I root for, they're all beyond due, okay? So due doesn't work, okay? Do. The Jets haven't won since 1968. The Knicks haven't won since 1973. The Mets haven't won since 1986. The Rangers haven't won since 1994. So they're all due. What does due mean? Nothing. Due means another year of pain.
And that's why the podcast is called Oh, the Pain. So everyone go listen, watch it on YouTube. Joe will be on the Fan 5 to 9 on Saturday.
That's it, bro. We got to get you on, bro. I know you're a busy dude.
I don't know if Ryan Hurley wants me on because I'm at ESPN New York. But I love Ryan. He hired me. He gave me my start.
I don't think Ryan Hurley would care about you coming on with me. Maybe they would care about you coming on with me.
Yeah,
I don't think our side cares. I think your side would be the one. You know,
I do it in a second. It's
no, I know.
course.
No,
yeah.
Come on. You know that. You know that.
Joe, you're the man. Appreciate you hopping on. If the Jets do anything else crazy, I'll reach out. We'll get you out before the draft and see where everything's at.
You got it, bro. All the love. God bless America. You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Joe Benigno, the host of the Oh the Pain podcast with us there. Good to hear from Joe. Appreciate everyone tuned in. Make sure you guys like the video and are subscribed to the channel. We're presented by FanDuel, and here are the latest Jets Super Bowl odds following all the moves they've made, plus 25,000. So you're saying there's a chance. If you want to bet on the Jets or anything else, WBC, the Knicks, any of the local hockey teams, really any sport, FanDuel's got the best odds. They got it all. Check it out. And, of course, make sure you download the FanDuel app where you can bet right on their website as well. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with your calls. We got ASMANIAC Madness ongoing right now. Chef Kevin and the Hamburger are currently duking it out. So vote for who you want to see advance to the round of 32.
ASMANIAC Madness is underway. Make sure you vote to make your voice heard.
That's right. Vote. We got a Wayne Krabet signed helmet up for grabs on the show today. You'll have this show and the afternoon show for your chance to enter. We're going to take a short break. I wanted to play something. Robbie Sabo is leading the charge for the Jets to take Arvell Reese at pick 2. He does not believe David Bailey should be the pick. He is anti-Bailey. And it's interesting because another friend of the show, Frankie V from U Stadium, is all about Bailey. So I'm going to get the two of them on next week, and they're going to have the debate on the air, and I'll moderate things. But here's a little Sabo film on Reese versus Bailey. I want to play this, react, and then we'll get to your calls and everything going on with the New York Jets.
This is what's called Monday Film Room, looking around at teammates going, what the hell is this guy doing? Here's Bailey. Let's run it through. This is a classic. He's not going to take on a little physicality for us, for me, for his teammates. And this is a classic contrast between a guy who avoids contact, Bailey, and a guy who doesn't, Reese, and who's willing to do the little things for his defense, to not destroy the integrity of that defense. Counter, fake pitch, counter, 2nd and 9, championship game. Bailey avoids the kick out. Are we serious? It's a 4-man front. Here's Bailey up top. He's edge. He's the force player. Now, D-tackle, inside step. I don't know if he's following or if it's planned. If it is inside and someone's replacing Bailey on the edge, that's even worse. If someone's replacing him on the edge, even though no one comes, you should take this kick out with your outside shoulder and try to muck it up right here. Right here, muck it up, make the back go around. He tries to avoid. When you're coming down as the force player, at this point, you're outgunned. D-tackle, slant it in. Take this on. If you're the force player, take it on with your inside shoulder. Leave your outside free, but at all costs, attack and muck it up. Muck it up right here. Do damage. Car accident. This way, the counter, the ball carrier, has to cut it up quicker or take more time to bounce it out. If someone's replacing you off the edge, it's even worse what he does because you got to take it on with your outside shoulder, just cut down the space, do the right thing for your teammates. But when he comes down, okay, screech, 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 screech. Now you know the kick out's coming. You got a puller also coming, classic counter. Get in there. Be violent. Helmet on under the chin, crown under the chin. He stops. That's how you play crap defense, folks. He stops. And it just gives way for the puller coming through to clean up on the second level. Major issue here. And it's not a one-time thing. Meanwhile, you got a guy, Reese, 2 years younger, weighs 7 or 8 pounds less, doing this off the edge. Bang. Squeeze. Flat. Aggressive. Physical. Doing the right thing for his teammates. He sees the kick out. Here he is to the left. Sees the kick out and attacks it. Attack it. Don't elude. Boom. See what he does for his team? See the difference? This is football. Again, Bailey, great hands, has a chance to be a great pass rusher at the NFL level. Not a 3-down player. This guy is. He's 2 years younger. He's outweighed by Bailey, and yet he's so much more physical and violent, I can't even tell you. He does all the little things so much better. It's mind-boggling that it's even a discussion at 2. This is how you play football. Edge, 3-3-5, reads it, tight end, down immediately, snuffs it out. Here comes the kick. Takes it on perfectly. Head outside, peeking, flat. So the back has to make a decision, has to take time. He has got to make a quicker decision. Doesn't know what to do, tries to slither through, even though Miami almost has a seal. If Reese is too far downhill, doesn't squeeze it too far enough, the back could easily have found something here. But Reese makes it happen, anchors up, outside shoulder pad, detaches, and then makes the play, in on the play. That's defense, folks.
So Robbie Sabo breaking it down. Reese or Bailey will be a big debate. Frankie V will join me. We'll get his perspective. We'll do that in all likelihood next week on the show. Some Jet news. They re-signed Xavier Newman. So they brought back Max Mitchell and Xavier Newman. These feel like one-year deals for very little money. That's why the terms of the deal aren't out. We'll see when it gets actually submitted what it looks like. But the Jets are adding to their depth. I'd still like to see the Jets go out there and add another capable player in the draft at this point. So then Myers also is a depth option potentially. Let's say they take the Penn State guard at 16. Obviously, that guy's going to play. But it doesn't just have to be him. Let's say they take someone at pick 33 who's an interior offensive lineman. Remember, Tippin can play center or guard. I think they prefer to leave him at guard, but you can move him back to center if you drafted a guard. Now, that's what teams do. You got to get some depth in your pipeline. You got pick 44. You could take an interior offensive lineman there. And then all of a sudden, if Myers is not starting by the end of the year and it's a rookie to go with the 2 bookend tackles and Tippmann, that's pretty good. But Newman, Mitchell, they're back. They signed Dylan Parham yesterday. I expect the Jets to be offensive heavy with their picks early in this draft. I think 2 is clearly going to be a pass rusher. If I had to guess, I think it's going to be Arvell Reese. But then after that, 16 could be an offensive player, could be a guard or center. Probably not a center, but a guard. Could easily be a receiver there. That's my personal preference. I'd love to see the Jets get Mekhi Lemon. I don't think Carnell Tate's going to make it to 16, but I do have Tate ahead of Lemon. And then, of course, I think in play has to be Kenyon Sadiq because he's just a freak. Sadiq the Freak. I don't know if that's his actual nickname, but that's what I'll call him. Yeah, ironic if they finally took a tight end after 2 years of debating, do they go tight end in round 1? But you could do it because you have the tackles solidified. Could be a defensive player at 16 too, but as far as Newman goes, good depth signing, fine. No problem with that. Jets O-line was a strength. Let's hope they get the same level of injury luck that they got last year because obviously they lost Vera Tucker, but then after that, the same 5 guys started every game, which is insane. Super Chats cut the line. Kashmir Black says Brandon Ayuk is an option when the Niners release him, ? He could be. I'd be a little surprised, though. Doesn't feel like the best locker room guy based on what happened there. But you investigate it. Where's that? What's that meme? Due diligence. You smash the due diligence button. Wayne Corbett sign helmet is the giveaway for anyone who gifts a membership to enter the raffle. I also want to let people know that we have the weekly raffle series on the show tomorrow, and we got a bunch of great Jet-related items up for grabs. I'm raffling away on our show this week a signed Joe Namath helmet, a signed Joe Klecko helmet, a signed Garrett Wilson helmet, and I bought a 4th prize for this week. It is a signed Kevin Mawai jersey. So that's up for grabs on the show tomorrow. You're going to want to make sure you enter the raffle by sending in a $10 super chat to buy 2 tickets or gifting a membership for every membership you gift. That's how many raffle tickets that you earn. Frank P. Holy hell. Speak of the devil. 10 raffle tickets from Frank. Let's go. A 10 spot of gifted memberships. Frank, hit the Jet chant. Let's go. Our guy, Frank P., who's an OG Jet fan and longtime viewer of the show. Friday Jones, Jack Dooley, J-Boy John, Jesse Davis, Justin Sean Rocks, Heart of Sports, Ev Doggy, Dylan Neeson, Return of the Mac, and Julian C34 all just received a channel membership from the great Frank P. Let's go.
It's J-E-T-S, Jets. I love Fireman Ed, too.
I'm going to get to your calls coming up. A lot to talk about with the Jets. We are on backup quarterback watch today. I do think today could be the day they sign a backup. Not many guys left. They do have Bailey Zappi, so technically he's the backup. Right now, the depth chart is Geno, Zappi, and Brady Cook. I guess technically Justin Fields, but we know he won't be on this team. So we're on backup quarterback watch. On that note, to your calls we go. First up today is the Doc. Doc Jets fan. What's up, Doc?
Good morning. Awesome segment with JB. You know, I listen to him talk, and I feel like he's the brother from another mother. We must have had a lot of common experiences in the last 50-something years. That was a great segment. And you know what? I loved his takes, briefly. Geno, with the upside, very little risk. And Muji's a genius. I really believe that. Maybe that's hyperbolic. But think about what he had to go against coming in this year, trying to acquire talent. He's got a possibly lame duck Aaron Glenn. He's got Woody. He's got the turf. And he's making it happen, acquiring talent by doing it somewhat unconventionally in football terms. In baseball, you always see these 7-team, trades with, this guy and that guy, and it's rare to see it in football. He's not giving this free agents a chance to say no to the Jets. He's trading for guys who then have very little choice. They either, they're going to get traded, they can sign an extension like Minka, but that's genius. And his take on Muji and both the quarterback are spot on, but not what I want to talk about. If I have a second,
go ahead, Doc.
I want to open up your mind to Ty Simpson, and here's why. We've all been conditioned that if the Jets do it, it's going to get screwed up, right? If they make the play, it's just not going to work. It's the Jets, but it's not always the case. 2023, the Jets had the 15th pick. They desperately needed an offensive lineman. What happens? Belichick trades the pick to Pittsburgh. They take Broderick Jones. We all assume that he's going to become John Hanna. Didn't happen. Yet again this year, it's a one quarterback draft. The Jets have the second pick. Typical Jets. Not so fast, my friends, in the words of Lee Corso. Because, all right, so disclaimer time. If you gave me the knee X-ray of Max Crosby, I can give you a world-class expert opinion. But looking at tape of Ty Simpson, I can't be that guy. But you have lots of guys, and I'm going to encourage you to delve into this more deeply. And here's why. Because when I've looked at it as an amateur, the tape of both Mendoza and Simpson clearly had no help from his offensive line, had no running game, and his wide receivers sucked. Mendoza, the complete opposite. He could have done his homework in the pocket. He was well coached, very well coached by Cignetti. And both wide receivers, Amari Brown and his second receiver, really helped him out. They were terrific. The narrative that this is a one quarterback draft could actually help the Jets. I think if you put Simpson on Indiana, he would have had as good a season as Mendoza. And the opposite is true if you'd put Mendoza on Alabama.
What you're describing, Doc, is what NFL GMs and scouts and decision makers, they have to determine for themselves. How confident are they that if you change the situations, what would happen? But you're not alone in that take, because I know Robbie Sabo and Joe Blewett have been on the show and have said the same exact thing, and they do film study as good as anyone in the Jet community out there. So that is what Muji and Glenn and Frank Reich and whoever else is involved in the decision have to determine if it's worth pick 16, or is it only worth it if he's there at 33, or do we move back into the end of round one? Is there a certain threshold where they're comfortable taking the calculated risk? Because that's what the draft is. It's risk. It's risk management. That's what you're trying to figure out.
I agree with you 100%. That's why keep pounding away on that film. I know that's been the take from Joe and some other people. I think even Sabo said the same thing, that the gap between the two of them is not as great. Somebody's going to, there's always a guy in the draft that moves up 10 or 20 spots and everybody just shakes their head on ESPN and says, oh my God, how did this guy rise? It's going to be Simpson. Somebody's going to fall in love with him. And then the devil becomes the details. Again, I'm not the expert looking at film, but I'm hoping that guys like Muji, who played the position, and Reich can, if he's worth taking, you might have a path to a steal there. And then you keep your 3 first next year and you build an offense around this guy. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I'm saying the possibility is there.
Great call, Doc. Appreciate you making it.
Thank you.
Doc Jet fan in the leadoff spot. Great first call. Veteran Jet fan says, name this quarterback for me. 63% completion percentage, 26-9 record as a starter, 61 passing touchdowns to 13 interceptions, 734 yards rushing, and 12 touchdowns. You're describing Penn State QB Drew Aller. I like Drew Aller. He is very raw. I heard Chris Sims talk about this. I had Sims on. The footwork, very raw, needs coaching. You could say, well, Jets have Frank Reich. Okay. I would not do it in the second round. Someone called in yesterday and said 44 for I just no thank you. To me, he's a true projection, and I rather wait till day 3. So I would not take him early, but I would have no issue if they drafted him with. They have 2 4th-round picks. If they used one of them on hour, can I be that upset? This regime burnt the 4th-round pick on Arian Smith last year. They traded up for Tyler Barron. I think Muji's done a really good job, but really the job that Muji started doing that was like why we praise him started in August when he made the Phillips and Briggs deals and then the Brownlee trade and then the max value they got for Sauce and Quinnen Williams and the creativity of the Quinnen deal to get the better of the first-round picks from Dallas and Green Bay in 2027 when it's a better draft, not just at quarterback, but other positions. And then I like what Muji's done with some of the other trades, the Minka deal for a 7th and some of the value signings. But the one thing the Jets have to refine, and you hope this is where experience will help them, they had no plan for what day 3 was last year. It's like they had complete misevaluations of like where these guys were supposed to go. They need to have a better feel for the draft for. They overdrafted guys that, in the case of Arian Smith, was a 7th-round pick or a UDFA. NYC says, Doc Jet fan is my sleeper for next year's tournament. Man, I kind of wish Doc made the tournament this year. If it was up to me, Doc, I'd put you in, but I know you only started calling like a month ago. But Doc's a great caller.
Jets, Jets.
And he's open to Ty Simpson. And I am too. I like Ty. I just don't like the idea of a guy 15 starts taking him at pick 16. He'd be an outlier. I want to try and mitigate the risk by I'll take him in the second round. If it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul. You got 2 second-round picks. You're taking a chance on quarterback. You either have a quarterback or you don't in this league. And even if you take a quarterback next year, what you can't have a quarterback battle between Ty Simpson and the rookie they take? Or maybe Ty plays well and he's Tyler Shuck, and then you don't need a quarterback, and then you have 3 first-round picks to build your team with. Or trade back and get an extra 1 the following year. You see what you could do? The Rams have 2 first-round picks this year. They traded one of them to get a proven all-pro and just signed him to an extension. The corner they got from the Chiefs, McDuffie. If you're watching live, hit the like button. If you're watching live, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Joe Benigno, if you're just tuning in, was on with us for the first hour of the show. Shout out to Connie Carberg, who I see is in the chat. The first female scout in NFL history. Doc Jet fans, so sensible. Always enjoy his thoughts. I agree, Connie. Benigno brought this up. We talked about Matt Snell earlier. And a guy who knows all about the history of the Jets wrote a book about the Jet Super Bowl team is Bob Lederer. And Bob is called in, and he can share some thoughts on Matt Snell. Bob, appreciate you hopping on.
Hey, thanks very much, Jake. I appreciate it. Beyond Broadway Joe, the Super Bowl team that changed football. I only say that because I only have to sell 11,000 more books before I start getting royalties. So
11,000?
Any decade now that may kick in if I'm still alive. Hey, I didn't catch the beginning with Joe today, but I did see a note that Joe said something about Matt and the Jets. Can you fill me in on that?
Yeah, he talked about how Matt Snell never had a good relationship with the Jets dating back to Leon Hess, and the Jets have reached out in the past, and he wasn't at his Ring of Honor ceremony. And the story I heard, and you tell me if this is accurate in your reporting for the book you wrote, is that the Jets promised him a job after football and they didn't come through with that job, and he held that against the Jet organization even though no one that promised him that is still associated with the Jets.
That's I read that in several different places yesterday. And my book was a lot clearer about that than that. Okay. Sonny Werblin promised him a job when he signed the Jets, with the Jets in 1964. And he said to him, if you win a championship, and there was no Super Bowl back in 1964, if you win a championship, you will have a job for life with the Jet organization. Matt had to retire after the 72 season. His spleen had been completely burst, playing special teams his last year. And imagine that. Riggins had won the job at fullback. Matt still had a contract, and he went on the field and played special teams, which is where then and even today, for the most part, you play fringe players, guys that are too important or not important enough to risk being damaged. And several of the Jet players told me for the book that there was kind of a revolving door. The teams in the league, AFL and NFL, always had a list of next to bring in if somebody got hurt. But anyway, Matt had to retire. He burst his spleen, almost died on the field. He realized his career was over. They had an official ceremony in 63 that he was retiring, and Matt turned to the construction trade. Matt actually, as most people don't know, was a laborer building Shea Stadium in the 1960s. He did that in the summer, working at Shea Stadium. And actually, my dad was in the construction trade, and he got me jobs while I was in college a couple of years, where you can make some really nice money. So anyway, Matt did that as a kid, wanted to go into construction. And here is what really happened. He had no idea if Sonny had told the owners who forced him out in early 1968 about the promise he had made to Matt. And in fact, it was probably clear and reasonable to assume that he had not told the new owners, had not told Leon Hess, who by 72 was the majority owner of the team. Matt had an offer to be a foreman for a construction company in 1973. And all he needed was a reference from the New York Jets. Sounds simple, right? I mean, who wouldn't give a reference to a guy who helped you win the Super Bowl, who was the first major big name player that the franchise had ever signed back 10 years earlier? Well, guess what? The Leon Hess organization told Matt, we have a policy, we don't give references to former players. Matt told me this at the very end of my interview with him. And in fact, it's online. Boy Green and I did a little segment about it probably 3-4 months ago. And it is on YouTube, so you can find it. And Matt was, at the time, he was stunned. Like, what do you mean you won't give me a reference? You won't give me a recommendation? How do you not recommend, anybody that played for you unless they're really, a terrible individual, which Matt was not, obviously. He was a leader of the team. He was obviously a star player. And he was a guy that, always made himself available. Matt's reaction, and by the way, Robbie Sabo asked me to write something about Matt, which I did. I sent it to him last night. And so I'll probably go into a little bit more detail when it gets posted, whenever that's going to be. Matt first was hurt that the Jets didn't give him the reference. Eventually, and it didn't take too long for that, his hurt turned to anger. And Matt became absolutely solidified in his belief that the Jets had done him wrong. And as time went on, he literally to himself said, I don't care what they do. I'm not gonna play ball with them on anything anymore. So they invite him to his induction ceremony for the Ring of Honor.
And he didn't go.
With Boozer, and he didn't go. And they invited him to the 50th anniversary celebration with all his teammates. And he not only didn't go, but he didn't even respond. Now, I was at the hotel on the weekend of the 50th anniversary celebration. And I got to backtrack a little bit. When my book was first put together, I was walked into the Jet offices by my buddy who had supplied me with all the Super Bowl information, had given me all of Weeb's playbooks, had given me all this information that eventually went into book, and I think made it a really special kind of celebration of all the players on the team, and not just, another Namath book. And I love Joe. But I know Joe hates the name of the book, Beyond Broadway Joe, because it infers that there was something there big, as important as Joe. But anyway, this guy at the Jet offices, who is still there, looks at me and says, hey, we're going to invite Matt and everybody else next year to the big ceremony. This is 2017. And I looked at him and I said, Matt's not coming. And he said, what do you mean? I said, read my book. Read the chapter on Matt. He's not coming. And he said, well, why is that? And I said, because you guys keep waiting for him to come to you. He's offended. He is angry that the Jet organization has not done anything, that they did him wrong when he really needed a job back in 1973-74. And nothing, he was left out in the cold, a former player. And, a lot of these guys, when their playing days are over, whether it's football, baseball, or whatever, if they haven't had multi-million-dollar contracts, and they didn't in those days, it can be real tough for them to survive. And I looked at this guy and I said, listen, I've developed a really nice relationship with Matt. I can't promise you, but if you want me to, I will do everything within my power to talk to Matt, to find out, what we possibly could do to get past this situation. And the guy looked at me and said, we don't need your help. And I went, okay. I made my offer. And I said to him, I'm not looking for publicity. I'd like you to buy a lot of my books and sell them in the ballpark, but I'm not looking for publicity about being, the guy who's going to turn Matt back into, Jet to fandom. I said, but I'm telling you, Matt is not walking in the front door on his own. And he looked at me and I said, last thing I'm going to say to you, if you want Matt Snell to come back, you're going to have to do something like tell Woody Johnson he's got to get in his limo, go over to Jersey City, knock on the door with Matt and say, Matt, I'm not leaving until you open the door because I've got to get this straightened out. Now, with the last time I was on with you, Robbie said to me that he had never heard about this. And so, Woody has no responsibility because it was Leon Hess that did the deed 50 years ago. Okay. But my point was that somebody had to be an adult as big as possible and bring this thing to a conclusion. Now, Matt was turning like 79 years old in 2017. And I knew he didn't have a lot of time left. It's not that he was deathly sick, but hey, all these football players, if they make it past 80, that's really something to cherish. Anyway, nothing happened. Jets didn't do anything. I had dinner with Matt late in 2017. He invited me to come to New York and break bread with him. And I met with him, and this is going to be important. I met with Matt, and I met with a guy named Gary DiFilippo, who was Matt's best friend for like 15 years. DiFilippo owns a corner, little supermarket in Jersey City, and Matt was going there day after day having coffee with Gary in the morning, and they got really tight. So the two of them had dinner with me. And at the end of dinner, I said, listen, I met with the Jets a couple of months ago and wanting their help to, to buy the book and whatever. And I know they're going to invite you if they haven't already. And I don't recall if they'd already made the invitation or not. But I said, Matt, the fans of the Jets would love for you to be there for the 50th anniversary ceremony with all your friends, all your teammates. And Matt, I will tell you personally, I want you there because I want you to hear the crowd of 78,000 people cheer you. Because if even those who don't know will find out before the ceremony what you did in Super Bowl III, which a lot of young fans, I mean, people I think who are closer, 40 years old or less, who are not, like you, Jake, or like a lot of the people, who watch your program, they don't really know what Matt Snell did in Super Bowl III, other than he was one of the stars of Super Bowl III. But he was more than just one of the stars. He and Namath together, won that Super Bowl. And in fact, a week or two after the Super Bowl, Sonny Werblin, again, no longer the owner of the Jets, bought Matt a Cadillac. And Matt was invited to the Cadillac dealer. He had no idea what was going on. And the dealer said, hey, we got a mint green Cadillac out back. And Sonny Werblin has given me a message. He'd like you to call me. Sonny got a call from Matt, and Sonny said, hey, as far as I'm concerned, you're the co-MVP of that Super Bowl game. You deserve this. All right, now, here's the real kicker. I've been going around for the last X number of years, but particularly the last 6 months or so with Boy Green. And I have been on my high horse saying, I don't understand why Woody Johnson has been unable to get off his high horse and do whatever it took to get Matt. Okay? Yesterday, after Matt died, Gary DiFilippo, who I referenced before, Matt's best friend for like 15 years, called me up yesterday morning and said, I got to tell you a story. And I said, okay. He said, 5 or 6 years ago, I was at a bar with one of my boyhood buddies. It's a giant, excuse the expression, Jet season ticket holder, owns a lot of tickets. And he was on the phone as I was sitting there. He was on the phone with Woody. And for some reason, Woody, I guess this guy had told Woody, do you know this Gary DiFilippo guy? He is buddies with Matt Snell. He puts Gary on the phone with Woody. Woody says, hello, how are you? I want to give you a message because it's really important. I know you and Matt are tight. I want you to know and to tell Matt, I will do anything to get Matt to come back into the family. I hear this yesterday morning after Matt is gone. And Gary embellished, he added to the story. And here's the real kicker. He goes to Matt the next morning, knocks on Matt's door, says, Matt, hey, it's Gary. Can I come in? Yeah, sure. Come on in, Gary. He said, listen, just by chance, I was put on the phone with Woody Johnson last night. And Woody told me that he'll do anything to get you to come back and become part of the Jet family. And in fact, and Gary made this entirely up now, he told me he'll pay you $100,000 a year to be a PR man to help the Jets through public relations. Go a couple of times a year to some Jet functions or whatever, and just smile, be happy, and say hi to the fans and whatever. And Matt turned Gary down flat.
Man. It's tough, Bob. He was a man of his conviction.
It was shocking to me to learn yesterday. But Matt had made up his mind. He was so upset that the hurt had so, been driven so deep inside him that he just couldn't get himself to turn around and do anything else.
Well, it's disappointing, but he's a great Jet. We, any Jet fan, young or old, needs to know who Matt Snell was. And He's the only person who could say scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl wearing a Jet uniform. So he passed away.
And
lived a great life.
I know, and I'll just wind this up by saying, I know you got my book and read my book because you were one of the few people to interview me back in 2018 when the book came out, and you were still down in Houston. And I wondered, why the heck is this guy in Houston talking to me about the Jets? But, you know, it's funny. I was invited down to Savannah, Georgia to a book festival at one point that year. And I wondered, why the heck is somebody in Savannah, Georgia inviting me to, you know, a book festival? And I talked to the guy that made the invitation when I got down there. And I said that to him, and he said, Bob, you don't understand. 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, your book, because it covers the entire team, is going to be available in whatever form it's available in at that point, digitally or beyond that. And it's still the only book that really gives voice to all the guys on that team and goes in depth about what they were like and what drove them and what their impressions were of their teammates. And one of the most interesting chapters is, you know, what was the individual player reactions across the gamut of the team when Joe got up that Thursday night before the Super Bowl and guaranteed that they were going to win it. And so it's, you know, this is blatant, but hey, you've got a lot of people who were fans. In fact, I saw one guy yesterday and it said he was a fan since 1964. Take a look at my book. It is not only priceless for old Jet fans, but for even current Jet fans to learn and to become familiar with these guys who were so good. 12 of the Jet players that year, 12 played in the American Football League All-Star game. Imagine that. Across the gamut, offense and defense. So the book really is something that, you know, is cherished by the people who have seen it and used it and read it, because it's a keepsake. You know, it's something you can put on your in your bookcase, and your kids and your grandkids. I mean, I can't wait till my grandkids are old enough to read it, because you know, they live in New York and they're being brought up as Jet fans, and excuse the expression, Cub fans or Met fans, because one of my sons is a big Cub fan since he grew up here in Chicago. But thank you for having me on this morning. I really appreciate it.
Bob, you got it, and appreciate you giving us some insight on Matt Snell, who passed away the other day. All-time great Jet, and again, the only Jet who scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl when the Jets upset the Colts in January of 1969. Unreal. Going to get to more of your calls. We're going to get to the Asmaniac Madness battle as well. Chef Kevin, the hamburger right now. Scoreboard update, 66-34. Chef Kevin is currently leading. Back to your calls. We go. We Need a Chip is up next on the program. Hello, We Need a Chip.
What up, brother? How you doing?
What's up, man?
Chilling. I see we finally addressed the secondary, which is beautiful. I think we just need to go get a receiver, bro. What receiver you think we need to get to make this quarterback make sense?
Which receiver makes sense?
Yeah, what do you think? What receiver you think will be right now to make sense to go with this?
I think they draft someone pretty high. Now, that changes if they trade for Brian Thomas Jr., but I think they're going to draft someone. I think right now, I think 16 is a receiver in the draft, and if they don't do it there, 33 is a receiver.
Because really all we do is just really plug Geno into the same offense, but lose two. You know what I'm saying? like I don't know.
But think about it like this.
I like the Geno move. I'm happy with Geno. I actually
didn't have Garrett Wilson for most of the year last year. Garrett and A.D. Mitchell never played in the game together. So you got those two. Year two of Taylor. Brees is back. You know,
me and you both know that it was no rush to push Garrett to come back. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't have anybody.
Yeah, but that's a different conversation. I'm just saying they never played together. But 100%. I mean, look, they're gonna add a receiver for sure. I didn't want them to spend crazy money in free agency. When you look at some of the money these guys who are okay to good players getting paid like they're very good to great players, it doesn't make sense given where the Jets are in their rebuilding timeline now. So I think the draft is the way to do it because it's a loaded draft at receiver. There's great depth at that position, and it costs very little, especially if you got a guy on day 2. Think about the cost certainty you have with a guy on a rookie contract for 4 years that could be a productive player.
Yeah, yeah. I ain't gonna lie. I want to see AJ Brown with the Jets. It sounds crazy and stupid to say, but I really would love to see that. Right now, with the moves we made and Geno there, it would make a lot of sense because we're like wasting Garrett's like good years with having him with nobody. It just messes me up. I'm so happy with the moves though. It's been good moves.
Well, the question is with Brown, what does it cost? And he was unhappy winning a Super Bowl. I don't think he's going to be happy if he's going through a lame duck coaching staff potentially and Geno Smith being ineffective or I don't see it. That doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah. Fuck. Damn, man.
What would you give up for AJ Brown? They're going to want a first-round pick.
I mean, I wouldn't give up a first. I'd make it better with like maybe, I don't know, 2 seconds and something. I wouldn't give up a first at all because I'd want AJ Brown and 2 first-round picks. I'd want it to be sweet for us. I wouldn't just like sell the barn for him. I wouldn't do all that. I mean, I'd want him because he's disgruntled. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. If he wasn't disgruntled, I would.
You think?
You know,
so
that's the only reason it would be.
Jets is going to be good for him.
No, because it would be a trade. He wouldn't be choosing us. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to say sign him.
But he's unhappy in Philly where he's winning every year. So now you're going to bring him to the Jets where their win total right now is 5.5 on FanDuel.
No, I hear all that. It makes no sense for him to want to come here. I hear it would be trade. You know, he'd have to play.
You could trade for him, but if he's not bought in and he's not happy to be here, then you
he could. I mean, he could buy in
the locker room. He could, but do you really think that makes sense given where the Jets are at right now?
Stupidly, yes, because of the great moves we made defensive wise. Like it would take a lot of pressure off of Garrett, a lot off of Brees, a lot for whatever offensive scheme because he's a proven receiver. I just want any proven receiver. I'm really just saying AJ Brown because he's disgruntled.
So
and
say Brian Thomas Jr. Then say something that's realistic.
Yeah. Brian Thomas. I'm with you on that. I'm just saying AJ Brown because it's just he's disgruntled. That's the only reason it could be a trade. But I would like to see any solidified receiver already, and our draft picks like added to make it make sense. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, look, I mean, could they trade for a different receiver? Sure. I think they could definitely add someone in free agency that's maybe a lower level guy, or maybe they sign someone on a 1-year deal and maybe overpay if it's only a 1-year commitment. Like, could the Jets be in on Stephon Diggs, who's out there? Probably not. Doesn't feel like a fit. But he's there. Deebo Samuel, is he still a free agent? I don't know how much DeAndre Hopkins has left in the tank, but he's out there. They're going to draft someone. It's a very good receiver class. Very good. If they don't take someone at 16, you know what they're going to do? They're going to potentially take someone at 33 or 44. Keep that in mind. But A.J. Brown doesn't make any sense. If you're miserable playing on a team that won the Super Bowl a season ago, right? How are you going to be on the Jets when you're not expected to win more than 5.5 games right now? It just doesn't make sense. If you can get A.J. Brown for a 5th-round pick like Brandon Marshall cost the Jets, I'm in. Because the value is too good to pass up. And then we'll really create 2015. We need the Fitzpatrick year from Geno. The irony of asking Geno to have the Fitz year when that could have been Geno that year. But A.J. Brown doesn't make sense. He doesn't fit the timeline. Ladies and gentlemen, who's got it better than us on this channel? The Doc in the house, a 20 spot of gifted memberships. Hey now, let's go. I got my Mekhi Becton game-worn helmet on, baby. Let's go, Doc. I don't know if you've been around, but anytime we get a 20 spot, the helmet comes on or the umbrella reigning memberships comes on. We're going with the helmet. Doc just entered the raffle 20 times, and he just made 20 people channel members. So if you hear your name called, make sure you thank Doc Jet Fan, who just made 20 people channel members. Jaden D'Angelo, LP King, Jay Perez, Justin Talley, Earthbound 2 Av, Daniel Sace, Jamie YW98, Demon Kills, Lauren 6496, Robert Morris, 1181, Michael Basso, Mark Riz, David WH101, Sleepay, Frangle Fraz, Jet 2X630, Jerry Moore, Kendrick DW. And that apparently is 20 according to Mr. Tube. Give it up for the doc. Let's go. Hit the Jet chant one more time, baby.
It's J-E-T-S, Jets, Jets, Jets. I love Fireman Ed, too.
Oh, man. Doc, thank you very much. Very kind of you. We'll make sure you get your entries accounted for in both the daily and the weekly. Be like Doc and enter the raffle. End of our second show, we're raffling away a signed Wayne Corbett helmet. Big fella writes in, to me, if we don't trade for BTJ, Jawan Jennings is the best option. Guy's a dog. It would be great with G5. He's another name, right? He's another name for sure. He's still out there, which is a little surprising. The Titans have been linked to him. Are they going to sign another receiver? Apparently, the Commanders are interested in him, which makes sense. Their GM comes from San Francisco. I don't hate that. What's the money? I think they're just going to draft someone, though, big fella. And here's one thing I don't think people realize. I think the Jets like A.D. Mitchell more than we realize. I think they like him more than we realize. I don't think they look at receiver as big of a desperate need as some of us do. Obviously, you want to improve that room for sure. Garrett needs help. But I think they're going to use the draft. At this point, I'd be surprised if they acquired Brian Thomas Jr. I'm not saying they won't. It's still in the cards. But I lean with them addressing receiver via the draft. Mike Perez writes in, Jake, did you see the Wink interview? Not a good look at all. I did see it. I was going to talk more about it with Dylan on the afternoon show, but I'll play part of it right now, and I'll give you some quick thoughts because Wink Martindale did an interview with Pat Leonard, who does a football podcast predominantly covering the Giants. Pat's a good dude. I was hanging out with Pat at the Combine, and he had Wink Martindale on his program today. And here was Wink being asked about how close he came to being the Jets DC.
Mentioned earlier that you were missed here in New York by Giants fans, but Jets fans were really excited during this coaching cycle.
Let me pause right there. Pat, we were not. Maybe some were, but most of us were not.
That you were maybe going to be their defensive coordinator. So the question is from our fan, John. His question is, how is your relationship with Aaron Glenn? And how close were you to becoming the Jets defensive coordinator?
I think it was close. I think that, first of all, I've always respected and I like Aaron Glenn. I mean, he's a good dude. And, we think a lot alike on a lot of similar things defensively. But I think it was one of those, just to be honest with you, I think it was one of those decisions that was out of his hands, and we'll just leave it at that. But that's okay. You're wherever you're at's where you're supposed to be, and that that's what I've lived by forever, and I'm do until I go away. But I was excited to get back, to the city, and I think that would have been fun. I think it would have been a great challenge.
Let me say this. Did anyone hire Wink Martindale after he didn't get the Jet job? Anyone else lining up to interview Wink to be a DC? Enough said. I didn't want Wink Martindale. I want Aaron Glenn to call the defense, and he's doing that. And he said it's his superpower, so let's see it.
Play call is my superpower, really.
I want no excuses for this head coach. It's on him. You either improve or get out, because you should have been fired after your first year. You're lucky you weren't. So either prove me and everyone doubting you wrong or get out. You're making $12.5 million a year. You won 3 games in your first year. You started 0-7. Go prove that you know what you're doing. You have your players you wanted. You're changing the scheme. Muji's done a good job supplying you with what you need to run your scheme. You're going to get the second pick in the draft in all likelihood, invested in a top premium defensive player to help you. I don't need Wink Martindale to call the plays. What does Aaron Glenn do? Now we're going to find out if he can be a good play caller for the Jets defensively. Mike McDonald just won a Super Bowl doing that. Salah said his biggest regret with the Jets was not doing it on a full-time basis. Let's see it. No excuse. This team didn't have an interception last year. You hired Steve Wilkes. So Wink Martindale could say whatever he wants. Wink Martindale suggests Glenn didn't have his hands on, in the final call on the DC. Glenn said at the combine, Woody Johnson had nothing to do with that. Glenn said it was his decision. I don't really care. I think it was the right decision for Glenn to be the play caller. Now show us something.
Play call is my superpower, really.
But I think it's laughable that people are looking at Wink Martindale being like, oh, yeah, my God, Woody stopped the Jets from getting Wink. Who cares? Who cares? I'm supposed to lose sleep over that? I'm fine with it. More of your calls before we wrap. Chef Brian is on the line. Hey, Chef.
Hey, what's up, Jake? Thanks for taking my call, man. Before I get to my point, I just want to say, man, typical Jets on what Bob was saying, man, with Snell. They didn't give him that recommendation, and typical
To
Jets.
be fair, though, the Jets tried to do right by Matt Snell many times over the years. You know, if Woody Johnson offered him $100,000 a year to make some appearances at the stadium, and what more do you want Woody to do? It wasn't him who made the decision with Matt Snell. That was Leon Hess in the late 60s, early 70s when that happened.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, whatever. I guess we just have some bad juju still left over some of those things. But anyway, to my point, like I was telling you yesterday before I got cut off, I didn't have good service in the car. I'm pretty excited about Geno. Not crazy, but I think, like I was saying yesterday, if the defense improves, you know, he doesn't have to go crazy and throw the ball and risk getting intercepted. I'm happy with the offensive line moves. I think that's a sign that we're going to be running the ball a lot, and that's going to put us in a good situation. I think the division is not that great, you know, apart from the Patriots. So I was I was gonna say, don't kick me out, but I was gonna ask you, do you think that there's a possibility that the Jets could sneak into the wild card since the division is so weak? You know, Miami's, we don't know what's gonna happen with them, but you know, I think that we are in a position with the defense improve. I think the secondary is gonna be very good. We're gonna get turnovers. I think that we have a chance to sneak in the wild card. I know I really believe that.
You think the Jets are going to be able to compete for the wild card?
I think we could sneak in, man. Honestly, I think the defense is going to get much better. You know, with the moves that they did, we're gonna get some turnovers, Jake. I really believe that.
That wasn't their only problem. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. The offense. I mean, I think that is going to be similar to like when Salah was here. You know, we didn't really have to score much. Salah's I know it's not the same defense, but
you think this defense is going to be a top 5 defense in the league?
I think at least top 15, honestly, Jake. And I'm going to be calling a lot more, and I really believe that we're going to improve that much.
I hope you're right. I think they got a long way to go before we could sit here and say they're going to be a top 15 defense.
I mean, from depending on with how we look with Reese, I think he's gonna be number 2. I want a receiver for sure. I think for sure we're gonna be trading in the first round. I think they're gonna try to get 2 receivers in the first round, and then if Ty Simpson's there on the second round, they'll take him there. But I think we're gonna be taking 2 offensive players after Reese, and then we're locked and loaded because we got Garrett. You got the running game set up. Hopefully, this kid, the other Braylon Allen. I think he, you know, aside from the freaking fumbles, you know, because that was brutal last year. That fumble. I think after that fumble, it was pretty much downhill after there. But I think that with the running game, with Frank Reich, I think he's gonna run the ball a lot. Keep it simple for Geno. Hit the check downs. Don't go crazy with the throws. Don't risk the ball and let the defense work, man. Blitz the shit out of everybody, man. And let's go Jets. Jets for life, baby. Oh, wait. Before you let me go. To Beast. Yo, Beast, I got you with the burgers. I want to see you in the tailgate. I'll bring the brisket. I'll bring the ribs. I want to definitely meet up this year, Jake, at MetLife for the tailgate. Let me know. You know, I got my restaurant here. I do barbecue and stuff here in Sussex County, New Jersey, in Franklin. So, but I'll be there. And Beef, come through, man. I'm gonna bring the burgers.
Chef, I appreciate you, man. We'll see. And I'll keep everyone posted when the schedule comes out, what home game we'll do for the ASMANIAC group outing this year. I think Brian is on drugs, though, to be honest with all of you. He's way too bullish on the Jets. Thinking they're going to be a wild card team. Hey, I hope he's right, and I'm dead wrong. I'd be shocked. I really would. But hey, our coach has got superpowers, so you never know.
Play call is my superpower, really.
All right, I got a couple calls left to still get to. So we got to make this quick, though, because I'm late for something. So AJF is up next. What's up, AJF?
All right. I'll be quick. Okay, so first of all, I wish I could be that optimistic, but watching Aaron Glenn and Brady Cook last year absolutely sucked all the optimism left out of me as a Jets fan. Two, Bob was amazing. I really enjoyed his storytelling. I'd love to listen to like an audiobook, or if that exists, on his book on Joe Namath. Three, I'm going to the MCG tomorrow, and I'm super excited. That's where they're going to host the NFL Australia game. I wish the Jets were playing there. If they do it again, I'd love to see the Jets come play in Australia.
I'll make the trip. If the Jets are playing in Australia, I will be there.
That would be awesome. And then also, what do you think of Carson Beck as a potential prospect?
Day 3. I'm okay with that. If that's who they
You're
picked.
fine with it?
Yeah, he's not my first choice, but I'd rather take a chance on a guy I think with a higher ceiling. But I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm not gonna go crazy over it.
I mean, realistically, like I don't think that. I think the goal is ultimately to draft a quarterback the year after. So I think taking a swing on one of these guys isn't going to be like a guy they fully commit to. But I could see him sort of being sort of like Tyler Shuck. Like it's almost a new archetype of sort of college quarterbacks just staying in college for a lot longer. Sort of dealing with the injuries there and then coming to the league a lot more experience, because we've seen guys just like come in way too raw and it hasn't turned out.
Yeah, look, he could definitely be an option. As far as what you said at the beginning, though, the good news is you're not going to watch Brady Cook this year, right? So like, there's Geno's way better than Fields. He's way better than Tyrod. We'll see how much he has left, but Geno Smith will make it a more watchable product, you would think, at the beginning of the year. Hopefully those aren't famous last words.
Yeah, I hope Brady Cook's not on this team. And it's 3 a.m. I hope I don't wake my parents up. But Jets, Jets. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, Australian Jet fan.
It's Jets, Jets. I love Fireman Ed, too.
I love the passion. Mr. Bonesy was going to call in, but he's got to go to a parent-teachers conference he just wrote. Bonesy, what's sad is you were next. But don't worry, because on the Gusbuster Umbrella hotline right now is a man revered in this community. He watched Matt Snell score that touchdown in Super Bowl III. Ladies and gentlemen, it's One Punch Dave Brigham.
He thinks that Gorman needs to get a freaking job. This cowboy hates to see ASMANIACs complain. What they call him, One Punch Brigham. You need to get a job. What they call him, One Punch Brigham. The beast is on his ass. They call him One Punch Brigham. Has anyone seen Dean Mack? They call him One Punch Brigham. 'Cause you'll only need one.
Jake, what's up? How are you today? I know you don't have much time. I had a few problems today. Working on my well pump here in the house, trying to get the water straightened out. Anyway, at least we had a little progress this week. Somewhere towards progress,
I agree.
So I feel better. I feel better this week. And as far as Bob goes, guys got to learn a little respect for their elders in the chat. This one guy, we know who he is. You don't want to learn about the history of your team. Why be a fan? I mean, the history of the team means everything. I mean, I go back to the AFL days. If we didn't have the AFL days, we would have nothing to really cheer about. As far as I'm concerned, that's how I got my foot in the door. So have a little respect for your elders. Some of you guys, you got to learn a little history. Get into your history books, remedial work, little achievement on your part, little digging into the books. Or now the internet. It's so easy. You can flash your finger through. You can find out information at your fingertips. So don't be lazy. It's not a fit of achievement. It's very underachieving. I don't like to hear that. Guys aren't willing to learn. One guy in the chat, I'm a young guy, but I'm alive right now. What does that mean? We all learn from history. It's sad, Jake. It's sad when some of these guys, and some of the view of the older coaches, I really don't appreciate. Saying, you think if Vince Lombardi were living today, he couldn't learn the new systems? You don't give guys enough credit for their intelligence. You really don't. Everything is instant gratification to the young people. Hey, I get it. Okay. I'm an outlier here at this. There's a few of us that are old timers. Okay. And it's hard. Hey, you know what? Maybe when you guys get to our stage, they'll be doing the same thing to you. Okay. So, it's not very polite and it's not nice. And you don't really appreciate some of the things that we come down the pike with. We're a longtime fans. And we stood in with this team. So have a little respect. Bob's on there. He's giving his stuff. He's getting his diatribe. And, there's venom in the chat because he's older and he knows a few things. They don't want to hear it because they don't have the patience. Oh, well, that's my 2 cents for today. Guys guys have to be able to learn. What do you think, Jake? You guys think the older coaches just can't get it. I mean, even the view of Wink, I understand the part of Glenn taking over as the coach, but everybody's an individual. Nobody's tied to their own system. They can't change according to what, the modern methods. I know I have to change a lot of things I don't like, in order to get up to, just like this weld that I'm dealing with now. I got older parts, right? We're trying to find the parts and I have to adapt newer things to it in order to get my water straight. If I'm just stuck to the old ways, I won't drink. I won't be able to do things. Simple as that, my friends.
Love it. Dave, you're the man, and I agree with you.
Who's what? Is Chef ahead? Before you go, what's the story?
65-35. Chef Kev leading the hamburger.
Okay. Well, Hamburger he believed in the curse, so go down with the ship. Go down with the ship, Hamburger. I forgive him, but he's going down with the ship. All right, Jake, have a good afternoon. God bless everyone, and have respect for your elders, my friends. Take
He
care.
thinks that Gary needs more shots upside his head. This cowboy hates when you don't believe in achievement. Well, they call him one-punch Brigger. The moon landing was rain. They call him one-punch Brigger. His claim is not too dirty. One-punch Brigger. Hated jokes is like his ass. One-punch Brigger. Doesn't know they need done.
Amen, Dave. Doc Jet fan, super chat, cuts the line. Here's my $5 for Dave Briggus, 2 cents. He's now become my favorite person. Well played, Doc. Dave is the man. And he's calling out Spencer Green, who I'm seeing in the chat is fighting with everyone again. Spencer made a comment, God forbid I don't care about Super Bowl III. If you're a Jet fan, you should know the history of your team. So, just because you don't care about Matt Snell passing away, other Jet fans do. He's part of the history of the team. He scored a touchdown in the biggest upset in the history of the sport. He helped the Jets win the only Super Bowl they have in their history. So I don't care if you weren't alive for it. I wasn't either. Most of my audience wasn't. It was a long time ago already. We know that. But I wasn't around for the Civil War, but I know what happened. So well said, Dave. As far as Wink, to me, it wasn't the age thing. I'm speaking for me personally, not other people in the chat. I just don't think he was that good his last couple stops. And the reason why I don't want Wink Martindale is because he's going on a Giants Writers podcast. They all wanted Wink Martindale in the building because he's good with the media. You'll be a source for them. So if the Jets are a bleep show, the Athletic's going to be writing the hit pieces on the Jets. Who do you think is going to be voicing it? Or the anonymous source that's going to be providing info? That's how all this works. I work in media, trust me, but I'm a fan first. That's what's great about being a talk show host and not a beat writer or a journalist, a columnist. It's part of the reason I didn't want Wink. He wasn't good enough at his job for me to look past the other issues that potentially arise with him joining the Jets. And I don't want Glenn to be able to say, well, I hired Wink. It's Wink's defense. No, man, you're the head coach. It's on you. And I like that he's calling the plays. Can't be worse than Wilkes. Spencer Green says, Jake, I asked who he was and got jumped. You asked who Matt Snell was? Well, I mean, to be fair, if you're a Jet fan, you should know that. But I saw you were going back and forth with people, Spencer. You're not innocent in this. Let's not pretend otherwise. I saw this exchange, which I screenshotted at 11:36 a.m. Eastern time. Frank P. blocked Spencer Green months ago, and Spencer Green wrote, Frank blocked me. Dude's a clown, needs Blue Chew. You think that's nice, Spencer? Really? I'm Team Frank P. all the way. Ladies and gentlemen, one more call. You know, maybe two more calls. I'll explain why in a moment. But the champ's on the line. Last chance to enter the raffle for the show.
The only thing better than Alden shoes is Joey D, cause he totally rules. Jake, my brother, I'm high as a kite. I love everybody. Damn, this show is crazy.
Jake, my brother.
Mr. Bonesy.
I know you got to go and short on time, but I figured I've been discussing a lot in chat some things. I always got to get some shit off my chest. I will agree with you 100%. I'm glad that Glenn is calling the plays because he doesn't need no more excuses. This is on him. I'd say what percent of the league the head coach is calling either defensive or offensive plays. It's a common thing now. So definitely want him doing that. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about Frank Reich for a second. Everyone is like, especially Gypsy, he's killing Frank Reich, and I get it. But you guys couldn't name me an offensive coordinator who would have came here, and second, out of all the offensive coordinator hires this past offseason, maybe two of them you guys would have been hyped about, and they weren't coming here like McDaniels or Dable. So like, we didn't want Eric Bettany or Sean Mannion or all these guys. We would have had something to say about him. And Frank Reich, obviously he failed in Carolina and he was in college with Stanford doing Andrew Luck a favor. But if you go back to the Colts, I mean, 3 of the 4 years they were a top 10 offensive team. And he had Phillip Rivers 1 year, and he had Wentz 1 year, and he had I don't know if he was part of the Richardson fiasco, but he had Jonathan Taylor clicking in the rushing game. Like, it's an adult in the room, and I'm sick of us always wanting to play on potential. If there's any theme to this year, it's more about floor than ceiling. Defensively, we went with the floor. We got a lot of vets that know what they're doing and can give us a floor. On offense, we got an adult in the room who develops quarterbacks. He's a quarterback guy himself, and let's see what we could do. Geno. Why are we so mad about Geno? Geno wasn't my first choice, but who the hell did we want? I mean, Geno got. I said this yesterday. Geno got 2 years ago. Besides last year, he got traded for a 3rd-round pick and got $66 million guaranteed. That was just last year. Like, that's not that long ago. Geno still got a live arm who, yes, he takes chances and throws the ball down the field, but he could feed our playmakers. I don't know where our bar is so high. These guys in the chat, not Gypsy saying this, but I forget who it was telling me, let's get Sam Howell. And, dude, why do you want young backup quarterbacks that you're betting on potential and upside when we don't do potential and upside? So if Geno gives us 20, I'll bet anyone in chat right now. I'm not even like high on this, but I guarantee Geno throws 20 touchdowns this year, which will be the 3rd time in the last 16 years, and we're all complaining that we want someone else. Who wants to bet it? 20 touchdowns. That's pitiful. 20 touchdowns is a joke. That's average. He's going to do it. He's got a better offensive line. He's going to have better playmakers on the field. Is Ashton Genty a bust? Do we think Ashton Genty was as bad as he was last year? No. He's probably going to be fine this year. It's just like we have to relax with these. I don't know what we want. We all I want is to see some offense on the field and some defense that can turn over the ball and just be in games, not what we did the last 6 weeks of the season. You know what I'm saying? Like, our bar is not high. Like I said yesterday, give me 6 and 8 on the screen at the end of the year. Oh, if the Jets win 3 and these 2 teams lose, they could squeeze in. Sure, that's how bad we are. I don't know what we want. Everyone's complaining about Frank Reich. Who was coming here to try to save Glenn? That was a better option than at least someone who's an adult in the room. And, when he was an actual NFL coach for a couple of years, he had a top 10 offense 3 out of his 4 years. So That's all I'm going to say. People always want to say all these things, and they have no better options to give us, like, than what we did. So
look, he was my preference of Darrell Bevel and Greg Roman. I would have kept Engstrand though, but I mean,
yeah,
decision's been
I
made.
would have kept Engstrand too. Engstrand showed enough of me last year that I would have kept him, but I feel like at least we got an adult in the room that can develop a quarterback. He knows what he wants. Engstrand didn't really know what he wants. He was like, I could just work with what you give me and I'll make it work. Frank Reich has a guy who he wants, a type of guy. He wants a guy who pushes the ball down the field. That's part of his offense. Like, let's just see what we got, man. Like, let's just try to be mediocre and let's try to not let Garrett ask for a trade. Can we just feed Garrett enough that he doesn't ask for a trade? Because I fucking love Garrett, and he's the best wide receiver we had in a long time. And everyone's saying he's a 1A. Give him a real quarterback, and let's talk 1A, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, a passionate Mr. Bonesy, live from the greatest shoe store in the world, Alden's in Midtown Manhattan. How's business today?
Oh, it's raining. It's a little slow. I had one ball breaker, but,
I'm going to come stop by. I need some shoes.
Hey, baby, come in.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bonesy.
The Jet fans getting a little crazy.
Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, time to close out voting in Asmaniac Madness. The 710. Chef Kevin, the hamburger. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner and advancing to the round of 32 is Chef Kevin. 65-35, the final as Chef Kev advances to the next round. A total of 534 votes were cast. Congrats to Chef Kev. Great job by the hamburger. He couldn't call in, but he did send in a super chat and give some memberships to support the community. So thank you to both these great Asmaniacs for their contributions to the show. This afternoon, folks, we got a fun one in store for you. The 2 seed in the inside-outside region will be in action. Neil against his good friend, Southern Jet. That will be the final matchup in the round of 64 in the inside-outside region. You see, we're going from top left down to the Dangerous Alliance region. So once we get through today, first round action in the Dangerous Alliance region gets underway. Beastbreaker versus Leany tomorrow morning is the matchup. And our final call comes in from a man we call the Beast.
Fucking diarrhea, cha-cha-cha.
Beast, how you feeling one day out from your big battle?
I just had blood work done today. Yep, and I have to wait for the results tomorrow. It's going to take 24 hours. So I'm having a little bit of a Nalcharenka. This is Polish water from Poland.
That's fantastic. So do you think you'll be healthy for tomorrow?
I'll be fine. But let me just address one thing here. Dave Berger's right about one thing. Tell everybody, please respect your elders. That's all. Nothing new, nothing fancy. Just do your part and be yourself. It's not that hard. It's not hard to be the elephant in the room, but be yourself and do what you have to do for life. And Jake, I know you got to get somewhere. I don't want to feel like the ass in the room. So you need to go. You go do what you have to do, and you go have fun.
Peace. We'll talk to you this afternoon. I'm glad the blood work went well.
Well, as they say in Italy, arrivederci.
Don't let go of the rope. What rope are you talking about? This whole team looks like it's shot to shit. Who the hell do you think you are? I am.
That was a great Beast call. Well done, Beast. Respect your elders. Amen. Spencer Green doesn't respect his elders. And let it be known, since the history lesson was so important, let's spend 1 hour a day talking about the history of the team. 15 years, no playoffs, and we worried about Super Bowl III. If you don't acknowledge your history when it's a great history and a great moment in football history, what are you doing, Spencer? What, Matt Snell dies? You don't think Jet fans should talk about it? He scored their only touchdown in the game. He was a great player for them. He's in their Ring of Honor. This is such a stupid argument by you. The history enters into the conversation every day on this show. We talk about the previous season. We go back further and do talk about the playoff drought and things that happen along the way. We make comparisons to, Geno was trying to give us the Fitzpatrick year. History, you got to know the history of the team. It's part of being a fan. Right? Like the AVT signing elsewhere and people being like, well, now he's definitely going to stay healthy now that he's on the Patriots. That's because of the Jet history that we've experienced. It's all part of the conversation. You don't spend an hour a day specifically talking about it. If you're a fan, It's all part of the vernacular of talking about your teams. One last super chat from Doc here before we wrap. Is it just me or does Dave Brigger remind you of a young Robert Duvall? I love that. OG versus Young Buck, Jets debate panel on the Jake Asman Show anytime, Spencer. So here's the thing, Doc. I know you're a newer viewer of my show. Spencer never calls in. Black Gypsies challenged him. Many have challenged Spencer Green, but he never actually shows his face and calls in. He was gone for a while, though. Spencer's now back in the chat, getting people riled up. That's not new. It just hasn't happened in a while. Aussie Jet fan checks in. I love learning about new Jets history every time I watch the show. I mean, if you're a fan, like, I love that stuff. You want to know about the history of the team. I mean, the Jets have been around a long time. Well said, Aussie Jet fan. All right, that does it for me. Thank you to Joe Benigno for calling or for being on the show with us for an hour. Reminder, we're having a draft party, folks. RSVP if you're coming to Pittsburgh. It's free to get tickets for the draft, and it's free to attend our party. We'll be there all day at McFadden's during the day. The draft will be at night. It'll be on all the screens. It's right next to where the actual draft is. It's just going to be one giant party for Jet fans who are making the trip to Pittsburgh. So it is going to be outstanding. We have the raffle this afternoon for the signed Wayne Corbett helmet, so I'm looking forward to that. Join my Patreon if you haven't, patreon.com/Jake Asman Show. Get in our private Discord if you want to interact with the best fans in sports, the Asmaniacs, away from the YouTube show. Check it out. Again, you'll get your name in the title, and what's better than supporting this community? Patreon.com/Jake Asman Show. We're back with Dylan Terraman this afternoon. In honor of that, I leave you all with one final clip that needs to be played. And I also leave you with this. Go Jets. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you this afternoon.
Marcelino McCrary Dill.
All right. Me? Just hanging around.
Face the other direction.
So you see my ass?
Exactly.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Huh?
You guys win.
Alex says Charles was better. I forgot we got Gorman to do that too.
Gorman didn't use his legs.
Oh.
I'm reading the comments. They're all positive.
Play call is my superpower, really.
Oh, hi. Jake wants me to ask you to click on the like button.
That's right, Lane. And if they don't subscribe to the Jake Asman Show, this team may never win another game. Let's go Jets.